Nah. Nah, that way he won't hear me. I ain't seen Brian in a month of Sundays. Ready? We're gonna go ahead and call this meeting to order. Commissioners Tammy McCaskill, Will Jones, Rufus Borum, Justin Campbell, you're hereby notified that a special workshop of the Palatka City Commission has been called to be held on Thursday, April 8th, 2021 at Palatka City Hall, 201 North 2nd Street, Palatka, Florida. The meeting is open to the public and the meeting is called to commence at 5 p.m. The workshop agenda includes discussions of department projects, goals of the commission, and priorities. Please govern yourselves accordingly. At this time, we're going to have our invocation by Commissioner Borum, and we'll also have our pledge by Commissioner McCaskill. Will everyone please stand?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please. Dear Lord, I thank you for this day. Thank you for your grace and your mercy, and most of all, your unconditional love. Dear God, as we go through this meeting, we ask that you give us knowledge, wisdom, and guidance we need in order to be able to make the best decisions for our community. And we ask that everything that we do, it be pleasing unto you. I ask these things in your son Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Roll call, please.
Mayor Hill,
Here.
Commissioner McCaskill,
Here.
Commissioner Jones,
Here.
Commissioner Campbell,
Present.
Commissioner Borum.
Present.
All present and accounted for, with Campbell appearing via telecommunications.
Thank you. For the record, we have a quorum, although it's a workshop. At this time, we'll have public comment. Public comments will be limited to 2 minutes. No action will be taken on topics of discussion. Anyone appearing by way of Zoom, numbers 386-329-0100, extension 0, or you can use the YouTube chat function. Also, for those who are here publicly, you can use the yellow speakers card in order. We don't have anyone from the public present in the audience, so we will move forward at this time. Is there anything in the YouTube chat? Doesn't look like it. We're going to close public comment. And we're going to move forward. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take item 2 first at the request of Commissioner Jones. We'll do presentation by our departments for existing projects, and then we'll have commission comments and also any other comments from department heads or staff at that time. So first up on our list for presentations is our fire department, Chief Taylor and Mr. Holmes. I guess before we get started, you have any comments?
Mayor and commission, in order to attempt to be able to address whatever concerns or issues that the commission had, I've asked the department heads to basically be ready to provide a broad overview of everything from where they are with their budget to their equipment needs and conditions, to their projects and staffing levels. And advise them that the commission would probably give them guidance as to when that you wish them to be more brief or to limit their discussions, or if you wish to dive into certain topics with more detail. So with that as a backdrop, they're going to take guidance from you as to how much detail you wish them to go into.
Good
Chief
evening,
Taylor.
Mr. Mayor. Good evening, commissioners.
Good evening.
Department heads. So I'm here, Chief Taylor is the Palatka Fire Department. representative. I figured I'd take you through a quick overview of the department and answer any questions that you have. And if you desire for more information, you're welcome to come down to the station or request it, and I'll try and get it over to you. Okay. All right, Sonny, is there a trick? There you go. All right, so I think there's some debate, but around 1878, the fire department was began. So through the years, we've changed, as you can see, different trucks and carriages all the way into the modern era. Maybe we'll get to the modern era.
Ms. Krantz, can you move the screen with the video?
So we provide a great level of service. I think we respond to medical calls, fire, and any other emergency that we're called to. We go to anything from gas leaks to full out hazmat fires and everything else. We respond to about 3,000 fires a year. 3,000 calls a year, about 100 fires every year. Our budget is roughly 2.48 million. Operating expenses around 292. As you can see there, our capital outlay was around 43.5. Personnel is 24 full-time firefighters. You got one chief. We should have an assistant chief fire marshal, but we don't have that position filled right now. And then we've got 3 open spots. Well, actually 4 open spots, and we just tested 2 today. So we have 2 more candidates possibly coming on. We also have 1 part-time administrative assistant who helps us with our office work. You don't need to see that. We'll move on from there. So our department's broke up into 3 shifts. We have 8 per shift when we're full. Right now, we're at 6 on A shift and 7 on B and C shift. All of our firefighters have quite a bit of requirements on them. So especially further in the past, we had no help. So all we had were volunteers. Most of them were not hazmat trained or rope operations or anything like any kind of special operations. So we required our guys to be urban search and rescue required. That's about 200 hours of training. Inspector, which is 200 hours of training. Hazmat's 160 hours. EMT is, I think, up to a couple hundred hours now. And firefighter 2 is like almost 500 hours. And then all of our officers are company officer certified. Most of our captains are fire officer 2, working on their fire officer 3. And they're also required to be instructors. The facilities, we've come a long way from these buildings. We moved into this one in the 60s, the main station on 11th Street. And then later we were given the K. Larkin station in the 90s.
All right, see you later.
Sir? Yeah, they just had a crash. Training, we do all sorts of training. I don't know where my pictures went there, but high angle rope rescue, confined space, trench rescue, vehicle extrication. We do marine rescue. We're hazmat team for the region, and we're urban search and rescue for the county and the region. We are also a state asset urban search and rescue team, so we can be deployed across the state. Oh, well, here we are. Fancier than I remember. So that was training from GP and Frank George and some of the stuff behind our station. Crystal Cove fire, some of the other fires we've had through the years. And we picked up some of the newspaper articles and such that we had. You guys have probably seen through the years in the paper. That's the PFD family then and now. It's gotten quite a bit larger. The apparatus that we have, the tower truck, the marine rescue. So that's a breakdown there of all of our trucks. We have tower truck, tower 2, engine 1, pumper 1, brush 1, Technical Rescue 2, ATV 1, Utility 1, which is a medical response truck, Chief's vehicle, the Fire Marshal's vehicle, Hazmat 1, USAR 1, and the boat. We mostly do surface rescue, and the Sheriff Office does the diving. We received the SAFER grant 2 years ago, and we've only been able to put 2 people in it. We had one guy in it for about a month, and then he's gone and left us. So we still have an open spot in our grant right now. Some notable accomplishments: we got an ISO 2 rating. That puts us in the top almost like 1.5% of the country. There it is there. So now 1.65%. So we're one of the best fire departments in the nation. Out of 40,000 plus fire departments, we're ranked in the top 1%. And this just takes us back through that information. So there's, it takes a lot. It takes the water department, the sewer, and all those people. All of that is part of ISO, making sure that we can get water where we need it as a fire department. So that's where Jonathan and Sean and their team comes in. Lots of press through the years. Fires and thanks. We've had, lots of fires. Like I said, we have lots of people who'd like to be firefighters here because we get more fires than they do in St. Johns County. But they tend to leave us for money after they get the experience. So we also keep up with the hydrants. We're not really painting them anymore, but we used to go around and paint them and stripe them. And we do flow testing and greasing and making sure that they're operational. The fire marshal is in charge of hydrant stuff, fire pre-planning and inspections. So we try to do every business over a 3-year period. We have 3 ratings. So if they're a high hazard rating, they get inspected every year. If they're a moderate, they'll get twice a year or every 2 years. And then if they are a light hazard, we can do them every 3. Public education is something that we're always in the schools, especially in October. And it usually goes up to about January. And then we'll be back in the schools in the summertime to do the wet the kids thing and let them play in the water at the end of the school year. But we do a lot of fire safety shows. We give out coloring books and hats. We probably see thousands of kids every year. And a lot of times we get to see their parents. We give out brochures for their families so they can have good safety protocols for their home. And we also do a lot of local business training and fire extinguisher training, safety training, evacuation drills and stuff like that with hospitals and nursing homes. And here's just some of the examples of us through the years working with kids in public education. Right. The fire marshal is also in charge of the golf tournament, which we do to raise funds for the Fire Prevention and Public Education Prevention Bureau. We haven't done it since 2018 because of COVID. We'll hope to get that going again next year. But it's been a great help to our department in funding the coloring books and the hats and stuff that we get to the kids and making sure that we can get the information out to people. And we're trying to start the smoke detector program again. And if you don't understand that, we give out free smoke detectors to citizens of the city. And then our current needs, I have some of them listed here. These are our major needs. And the new radios, we got about 18 months to figure this out. And then we will be mandated by the federal government to change to a new system. And that's about how much money we're gonna need for our department to fix the radios. New air packs, about $250,000. Mandy and I did apply for a grant. We'll see how that works out for us, but we haven't heard back so far. We also will be needing a new ladder truck, about $1.5 million. We could probably do some things with the other truck and make it last a good while longer, but at some point we're gonna have to have another truck. And the longer we wait, the more they go up. Competitive wage structure to attract young talent would help us out. And then creating a capital replacement plan for things like the tower truck. We don't have any way to really accumulate money to build up for those capital replacement programs. And then we need to find a way to increase budget lines to allow for a true maintenance program. City manager and I have talked about this, and we've been working on it at the department for the last couple of years, trying to get our records digital and then trying to have a complete and real maintenance schedule and not just a tune-up. We need to be able to send it down and have everything gone through, the ladders done properly, torqued and spec'd. And that's about $7,000 to $10,000 a year to do that properly. So those are our big needs coming up that are going to cause us a little bit of heartburn, but I think we can figure out a way to get to it. And I'd be happy to take any questions at this point.
Any questions from the commission?
You said that you and Mandy applied for a grant. What was the amount of that grant and did
The
it
grant, I
require
think
any matching?
it's about $300,000 or $400,000, but the way that we've already lost a year on it. So we've already had it for over a year and no one in those positions. So I think we've gotten, Jill Mike can help me with this, but I think it was about $24,000 that we've received back in reimbursements for what we do have.
Chris, would you mention our minority recruitment scholarship program?
Oh, yeah, yes, sir. That's part of our public education, and Captain Myers has been instrumental in running that program at the high school. So it was something that JR and some of the guys kind of brainstormed on, and then Chief Grimes got it rolling in the high school. And now Captain Myers teaches 3 days a week in high school.
So is
They're
there
doing a public safety fire program at the high
is there
school.
anyone else that participates in that program besides Captain Myers as far as teaching?
No, sir.
Why not?
They don't want to. And I've asked the county a few times and they can't seem to get anybody to us. But JR said he's working on a plan to switch that over and get some different instructors.
And
Our
Captain Myers,
scholarship program, a minority.
Oh, yes, sir. And so along with the high school program, we started the local scholarship program. We've got about $20,000 in our budget to send roughly 3 to 4 people to school. And if we continue that, we could do it, more often, but that's to help us get some local talent, some minority talent. Right now, we just don't have those numbers and we're not getting any applications from anywhere in this area.
And how,
They come from St. Augustine, Jacksonville, Orlando.
Myers is doing it on his own personal time.
No, sir, he's being paid. I mean, we're paying him and he does it on duty, and when he's off duty, we pay him.
and
But
how has that information been put out to try to get interested applicants?
well, so I know HR was supposed to have put it out there a little bit, and I know that Mr. Holmes and others and the mayor have talked to different people, and JR had a few people in mind. So we filled it up already with people that he had they were suggested by principals at the local high schools.
Oh, principals.
So they went through a small process of getting some recommendations from the schools. And then that built it into, now we have 2 in the program right now. We had 2 others that interviewed, but they never came back.
So what's your thoughts on both the academy and the recruitment program?
I think the recruitment program is probably more beneficial to us than the high school program. I think the high school program is a great introduction and it's a good for our department on a kind of a PR type of deal, but we're looking at 3 to 5 years before you see any kind of, someone who's qualified to actually get a job. Because they're starting, this is a 10th grade, I think, and they go through high school and they'll be a fire 1 and they'll have to do all their burns when they're 18. So it's going to take them probably another year or so after getting out of school, and then they'll have to do their EMT and they get certified by the state. So the program's good, but that one's going to be kind of a long view for us, where the scholarship program, if we can find the right people and get them in school, I think that's going to be helpful for us. And if they live in the area, hopefully they'll stay. And that money won't be such a difference because they're not traveling from somewhere else. So that's my thoughts on that.
Any other questions?
Well, more of a, I guess, a point of reference to where he could possibly receive some funding from. I know we talked to Kat Camerick, the Congresswoman, and she's over all the emergency management services, kind of appropriations of funding and different things of that nature. So I think with that $150,000 for your communication stuff, she can probably help with something along those lines.
We did reach out to her for the air pack grant. So we'll see if that helps us get through.
Right, and
but we
and
did-
then
we
you
did let her
mentioned
know
about
that
the
we did a follow.
radios, which is also part of emergency communications,
Oh,
right?
absolutely, yes. Sir.
So she's the high-ranking person for that area, so we need to be, seeking those funds from her.
Absolutely.
Um, And you want your ladder truck is a 2006?
2006, yes, sir.
Right. And so if you were to rank that truck among your list of items, where would it sit for the most part with your list? From a
So
priorities?
I would say that the ladder truck is very, very important to this community. The ladder truck is what makes Palatka special as an emergency service. It also is what's going to help you get an ISO too. When you lose that ladder truck, you're going to drop back to a 3 or 4.
So it seems like we should already have it then, because we're on the verge of, if it's a 2006, we're in 21.
Yes, sir.
We need to be trying to get that figured out.
Yeah, and right now it's out of service. We've put about 30 grand in getting it fixed and it's all fixed up, but now it won't stay running. So we've either got an electrical problem or a fuel problem, and we've got competing theories on which one's correct, and 2 different companies telling us. So we're trying to deal through that right now.
So we're throwing good money to something that's
Well,
pretty
I mean,
kind of,
It's actually still in pretty good shape, and the ladder was in great shape. When they did all the maintenance, it's all good. It's just that it's like every time we fix something, something else goes down.
all right. So, yeah, I would just say if you wanted to maybe like rank them, I would say just rank them. And
Well,
but
I think
if
the
it's
issue
at the
there-
top, if we don't want to lose ISO rating because that the insurance and everything else.
Yes, sir. I would say right there, those 3 things, there is no ranking. They're all major problems. If you don't have those, we're out of business. Without air packs, I can't go into a fire. I can't do anything on a
Right.
hazmat scene. Without a ladder truck, we're losing ISO. We can't do anything at Georgia Pacific. We're going to have issues rescuing people at high, on high platforms or whatever. And then you're going to lose points on your ISO and structure fires when that ladder truck doesn't show up.
Right.
Now that's something that we could possibly overcome for ISO to some degree, but we're going to lose points for not having that. And then the radios, without radios, and then the federal government's required and mandated that happen. So those 3 things are huge, and those are the things that will have to happen
What's
at
your,
some way.
what's your average lifespan on your air packs?
Air packs are, I think, that about 10 to 15 years. I think it's right around 15, and you get a little bit more on the bottles than you do on the packs.
And what's the age of yours now?
Ours are from 07. They'll be out of compliance next year.
And so for the future, are you planning on setting any money aside in your budget to deal specifically with those things?
So I know that Chief Grimes helped with Logan. They sat down and they created a small capital replacement fund that they've rotated about $20,000 into. So that would help us get started with that. But with air packs, we're talking $500,000, $250,000.
Well, over the course of 10 to 15 years, you're talking $17,000, $18,000 per year if we plan it out for the future.
Right.
Based on where we are.
Right. And I don't have any budget lines there that I could just.
But I think coming in now as the new chief, you got an opportunity to plan for the future in a way that may not have necessarily been done before.
Yes, sir.
And I think those are the things that we want to make sure that we do as we move forward. Any other questions, comments?
Well, the only thing, we just, I guess, picked up a truck when Chief was here, prior to him leaving, then we got 2 trucks. Two fire trucks.
Yeah, we got 2 fire trucks, one in 18 and one in 19.
Okay, so just thinking about the ladder truck during those times, maybe, I don't know, we could have possibly thought about it at that point, but again, that's time passed, so we just need to look at how we can assist going forward. I'm just trying to, I know we just had picked up 2 trucks a couple years ago and just
Yes.
kind of thinking back on prioritization need.
Well, it wasn't, and I think the ladder truck wasn't a priority at that point compared to the
No,
fact
it
that you
wasn't.
had other engines that were
Yeah,
in far worse condition. I think what's happened is deferred maintenance has created its own problem at this point, and we're and it really didn't become a super problem until it stopped, until it started cutting off in the middle of calls,
Right.
kind of like what happened with the old engines. And so I just think that as we begin, we don't want to continually repeat what's happened in the past with any of the equipment. And it's just a matter of putting putting in the maintenance plans in place. I think overall for all our city equipment and also for our facilities, it's going to get us to where we need to be. If you had one, I guess over the next 5 years, what's your vision for your department? Or is there one, what's your most critical need at this point, and where do you see your department? Or what do you want to see
Those
happen
three
over the next
critical
5
needs
years?
are in place, and I would like to see our department grow, with the city and be prepared for the changes that I think are coming, and be part of that infrastructure change as we move forward. And I'd like to see our guys in the community a little more. But it's just one of those things where right now, we just don't have the time and the staffing to get to everything. But we're working in that direction. And I think if we can get that fire marshal position filled back up, that's going to help us get into the community, because right now I'm doing his job instead of being in the community and playing with numbers and trying to build programs and systems that make our department work smoother. Instead, I'm being drawn away to the fire marshal stuff.
So would the fire marshal and the assistant chief position be tied together, or would they be separate positions?
Yes, sir. Well, so historically they were separate for a long time until city manager Simbor. And when he came in, he wanted to make that assistant chief a 40-hour guy. Before, it was just one of the captains who had a little bit more power. He had a little more say so. And then they changed it under Simbor to make that assistant chief, but you can't make a guy on an engine a 40-hour guy. That doesn't work legally or economically. So they took the fire marshal and combined them. And that would be good for us because it allows that guy to be on fire scenes, on hazmat scenes and doing stuff with us, but also still taking care of fire prevention.
Commissioner Jones, you have a question? Anybody?
Okay. Yes, sir.
Anybody else? Commissioner Campbell?
I have nothing there. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Any questions from the city manager? Anyone else? Commissioner?
Thanks, Chris.
All right. Thanks, Chief.
Thanks, sir.
Chief Shaw?
Can I interject?
Yes, sir.
Chief Shaw, I mean, going forward, the purpose of this meeting is, and you did a fantastic job, Chief Taylor, with the history and all, because I didn't know a lot of that stuff. But we don't have to deep dive that far. Don't go all the way back to the beginning of the police department. Chief, here's where we want to go, because for the sake of time as well, like you can highlight your achievements for your department, some challenges or should I say areas of opportunity where you have to improve what you're working on, and then maybe a solution that you want to bring that the commission maybe could help on. And I know you probably already talked to the city manager about it, but some of this stuff is being heard by especially me for the first time. And so that we could have a think tank and come up with a solution and help you guys come up with it. So that's what this is about. Just and I didn't say it in the beginning, but so just to let you know, but you did a fine job, Chief Taylor. All right, Chief Shaw.
So, do I get time to go prepare for this? All right. All right. I'll try to roll with what we have here. Good evening again. Topics we're going to discuss here today are staffing, equipment, maintenance, achievements, projects, and our crime report. Our crime report at the end, I'm going to go over what we did previously and what we are currently moving into. For our staffing, as you know, turnover has been an issue over the last several years. We're going to look at the last 3 years, salary, recruiting efforts, and retention. Maybe if I use this clicker that Sonny got, it'll help. Over the last 3 years, we've had 24 officers leave, an average of 8 officers per year. Reasons for departure from the department was other agencies at 54%, retirement at 17%, exit law enforcement career at 17%, and for disciplinary reasons at 12%. Now that might be hard for you to see, but what I did is, in looking at it, at our largest reasons for leaving, the 54% being for other agencies and salary being a big thing, I did a salary survey to include 17 departments from the surrounding area. Within doing that, I was able to ascertain that the average pay, annual pay, for each officer is $40,241, where we are currently sitting at $36,467 in our pay. So I just did it for an idea, for the commission to have an idea exactly of where we are. Most of our officers are leaving for St. John's and Clay County. We did have one leave recently for Flagler County, and they all are for the difference in pay. When I looked at it, I looked at the cost of replacing that average of 8 officers per year. And in placing that average of 8 officers a year to hire a new officer for training and equipment at $15,604 for the 8 officers was $124,832. So what we did is we put some things in place for recruitment and retention. We began doing recruitment through the academy. We built the scholarship program. Then we also did the bonus pay for experienced officers. And the scholarship program, as you all know, and you was part of, was the minority scholarship program. As far as retention, we looked at contracts. So we went into a contractual agreements with officers coming in to ask for a 2-year contract coming in upon hire, and then also for any career development courses that they would stay with us for a period of time, depending on how in-depth and costly the career development class was. So those are things we looked at to try to hold on. Right now, our average time actually over the last year and a half has been right at a year or a half before, once they get their training, they're leaving. So we decided to go ahead and look at being able to, if we could keep them a little longer, to get invested in the community, it would help with how long they would stay. And if we noticed that once they stayed at least 5 to 7 years, we got a better turnaround from them, and usually had a high percentage of them staying at the department. The next area is equipment. As Chief Taylor told you, 800 megahertz radios is going to be a big impact for us cost-wise for equipment here coming up. It is an 18-month turnaround that we're looking at going into. It's something that we really have no choice in. As you know, our radios are dispatched through the sheriff's office. Once the sheriff's office in the county makes that switch, if we're not on board, we have no way of communicating. So that's something that we've been talking about here now for a little over a year. We have a somewhat of a realistic time frame. Before, it was unknown, but now they're starting to narrow down the time frame. And from what we heard, our last correspondence was 18 months. We would need to be prepared. For the police department, that cost would be roughly about $340,000. I should indicate it should be $340,000 if we were to get in-car radios, or if we would just go to portables, it would be roughly about $160,000. Right now, we do operate with in-car radios and portables. Other areas was the field training officer evaluation software. That software will allow us to go away from paper, having to go to online software to be able to maintain it in the cloud, so we don't have to worry about again having a small portion of the police department being operated by paper, and we can continue to go paperless, as well as the evaluation portion of it allows us to do annual evaluations. We upload the information throughout the year in the system, and then at the end of the year, you're just pulling that stuff out. You don't have to worry about at the end of the year that supervisor going along and just having to work on remembering or pulling from a file or giving a proper evaluation, is what I should say, giving a proper evaluation throughout the course of a year and making sure we document and catch everything, both on the positive and the negative. So that software will allow us to do that. We are right now, when we moved from Telestaff to ADG, it didn't allow us to bring over extra detail software. Looking at Power DMS, it allows us to do that. So it allows us to track our extra details properly and allows the officers to sign up for it, not only at the office, but away from the office. Right now, you can't sign up from it away from the office. The officer has to physically come to the office to sign up for extra detail. So that's one of the things we're looking at getting changed. And we would like to be able to add body cameras for the detectives division. We now control body cameras for all of our patrol, but we have to have a number of units to sit in just in case we have anything go wrong and any maintenance issues, any cameras go down. We need to have those to have backup so we can send them out. So we don't have body cams for admin and detectives. We would like to be able to do that and be able to also fund the storage cloud for all of that.
What's that cost?
Do you have an idea of the cost for that?
Body cams will run us, well, right now we're on a 5-year contract with Axon. We're getting close to the end of our contract. The way that Axon works is contractual now. You pay almost like a car payment per month. And then in the process, every 2 years, you get the newest equipment in which they're making. Currently, our agency wears the Body Cam 2, and they just shipped us 3 weeks ago the new Body Cam 3s, which have a tremendous amount of capabilities beyond what we're currently using. So those are going to be getting deployed to our personnel in the next week.
So is that like a lease program?
So yes, it is a lease program. It covers the turnaround, but the cost, I guess, in question, to be able to buy, the body cameras are bought per the number for the agency, for bodies for the agency. The price goes up by the number, and then the cloud also that we store, it goes up by the number of body cameras we have for the size of the cloud we need.
So
I don't have the exact number.
Were they roughly about $1,000 per?
The Body Cam 2s were about $600. The Body Cam 3s, if we were to start buying them now and we were not on the program that we're on, the program we're on now helps us stretch our money over a period of time. They're about anywhere between $800 and $1,200.
Yeah, I thought I remember it being about $1,000. So Commissioner Campbell, just in case you couldn't hear, it's roughly between $800 to $1,200 per camera based upon the Body Cam 3s.
That includes the storage as well.
Clouds in addition, right?
That's just the cameras alone. That's just the cameras. It's not the storage.
So it
And you
goes
have to
based
buy
on the
storage
footage.
based on the number of cameras you have and the amount of data we will be holding.
Based on terabytes, the terabyte storage for the computers, and then that's also depends upon how often the detectives would be using them. But Axon really doesn't care about that. What they want to know is how many terabytes do you want.
Right.
And then the way our system is set up is we're at a point now, we've been using them for so long that we're at a point now where almost every day I'm getting notifications from Axon saying that this many videos is being deleted, this many videos is being deleted, which means we're almost rewinding and data storage, meaning we're able to reuse that data storage again, if that makes sense.
How long did you store for?
It depends on the case.
If
Depends on
the case is
actual
still active
video.
or not?
Correct.
So the question you were at, well, the statement you were making earlier about you getting communication from Axon saying these number of video or files is being deleted, are those being, are they based on the cases, no case
Those are
associated
only
with?
videos that are able to be deleted. So for instance, if it's a case, it's logged under a different category and it's a must-hold category. The cases that they're looking at are videos that are not required to be held for a certain period of
Legal
time.
services.
So they have 90 days and then beyond that they can begin being deleted.
Okay, so it's on a time base.
Yes, sir. Misdemeanors are maintained for 4 years. Felony cases are maintained for 8. Traffic crash investigations are only required to be held for 90 days. We hold them for 180.
Okay.
Just for the owners of the cars to make sure they get everything taken care of. And then all other cases are only held for 90 days, which is what public record retention law requires to do.
So I like the, we have servers in the city as well. So, and I think, don't y'all still have servers at the PD?
Yes, but that's gonna require us to get a whole new system.
Okay, because I'm just thinking about from a storage standpoint and having things in the cloud, their service level agreement and what would that mean if we needed to? Can they guarantee you? Those are the things that we need to probably be thinking about and looking at. In the event that we need to have video restored in a period of time, what is their service level agreement or guarantee that that information can be available in the event if you had to go to court or if you had to provide it to an insurance company or wherever it may be? Those are the things that we probably need to be looking at.
That's above my pay grade.
Because when you got the cloud, we don't control the cloud. You don't know where the information is. The information can
We have,
be,
we have access to it, and we actually can.
I understand that. You have access to it through the cloud. You don't have it in your physical location on a server.
For all of us who don't know what you're talking
No,
about,
but-
can you get with him later?
Well,
and
right,
y'all
but
talk
what I'm
about
saying,
that piece?
he's saying that he have access to it. You got access to it, but it's through the cloud. You can't say, well, we have this server located in this physical location that we can extract the information from. If it's in the cloud, you have really no control. So we need to really look at that.
I think it's all good conversation. I mean, if
No,
we didn't have.
I agree.
Yeah.
We're gonna bring back some numbers because like I said, it's gonna require us to change the whole system.
Right.
And I'm not sure, but I'll get with Captain Newcomb and we'll research to see if any other departments are doing it in the manner of just doing it on site and servers and not actually using or contracting with the companies for the cloud.
Right. And then just their service level agreement. We just need to understand what that looked like.
We have all of those kind of things because Axon deals with the CGIS requirements,
Mhm.
legal requirements and everything. They have all this, you know, I just need to look.
Yeah, we can get.
It's all kind of encrypted. And
Right.
It's pretty high tech.
Yeah, let's get together offline, but it's just something that we need to really think about as we need to know where the data is and restore time, what that means and what it looked like if we had to go to court.
We'll get together and sit down and talk about it.
That'll work.
Next part we're looking at is maintenance. I know this is a reoccurring topic. We've discussed the roof for the main office several times. It's actually been Band-Aid repair for a number of different years. It needs a pitched roof. We fixed it, and before we know it, within a couple of months, it's leaking again. It's just part of our old building. So that's things we're looking at for maintenance repairs, things we're bringing to the table this year for the budget again, as well as discussion on what we can do for a permanent fix or to move forward. We're also looking at fencing in the back for the detectives division and then security for the building, for a new camera system, as well as closing in the back fence lot. For a period of time we had, and it was a short period of time, we had the motor operated gates to where we didn't have to worry about people cutting through the back lot. And we want to be able to secure that area so that it remains a secure environment with the items and the things that we have in the back lot. So we're looking at doing that. Our achievements, basically finding for the last year and a half, finding ways to provide community service projects and events and activities during the pandemic. We have, and I have been very proud of what the department has been able to do, as well as in conjunction with PAL, trunk or treat, backpack supply giveaway, our PAL mentoring program, our recreation and golf tournament with the assistance of the recreation department, our basketball skills and activities that took place instead of having our actual basketball league, being that what we faced with COVID and it being a high impact at the time, we decided to go a different route to be able to have social distance and safety. We did the basketball skills and activities We also looked at, just recently, we sent a 14U and a 12U team to state basketball in Jacksonville. I'm going to be bringing, I believe it's the 14U team before you, hopefully at our next commission meeting, because they finished second in the state at the state basketball game. So that was also a pretty big thing for us. Our ViStar self-defense and security training that was put on by Captain Newcomb, and then our Children's Reading Center law enforcement public safety presentation that we did for the charter school. Those are all things that we were able to do still within the pandemic, things that we faced. We know we faced challenges on how we were able to get out in the community and do activities. I'm very proud that we were able to do these events. I wish we were, and we are working on doing more, and we're going to continue finding different ways amidst the challenges that we face to continue on getting in the community. Our projects right now, we're a partnership with the St. Johns River State College for development and use of the high liability and training facility, upgrades to the shooting range to consist of lighting and new training facilities. Those are all part within this year, and we're looking to advance to move forward within next year as well.
When you say new training facility, what do you mean?
We are looking to actually put out at the range a training facility. So right now we have, everywhere else has somewhere where they can actually do training. All we have in the department is the classroom, which you've been in to do our training. We don't have that. And then when we go out the range to do our training for any of our weapons training, as Commissioner Jones knows, there's not much covering. You just have an open bay area. So you can't do classroom stuff. You have to do the classroom back at the police department, and then you have to go out to the range. In the communications with the college, they're looking to bring over the academy back over to Palatka, and they're looking at actually utilizing the range to do those things as well. So they're wanting to partner with us to be able to put a building out there as bathroom and lighting so we can have those different things. And we've already sat down, we had negotiations and talks with them, and we are looking to begin the upgrades that we already had set in place, and they are looking at sitting down with us and assisting with some funding to continue the rest.
Looking at like a portable classroom or something to that effect?
Portable classroom, a training room. We're looking at a couple different things similar to the Bay building out back, something with enough room to be able to hold, if need be, enough training for not only the police department, but if the city wants to put on a training, we hold citywide.
Even with the school closures, to see if there may be some opportunities with the abandoned portables they may have as well.
We went out and looked at a couple things, not only with the college, but looked at through the school board in reference to some of the portables, as well as from what the college designed and have for their portables out near behind the library, as well as what the school board now has for the classroom. So we looked at a couple of them. We did some pricing ranges to see what we can get. Right now, we're trying to see how much square footage, the largest square footage we can get for the lowest amount.
Chief,
And
duty.
And actually with the schools merging now, I think this would be a good time. I don't know if you're planning on, okay. What their ideas are, but I think this would be a
No,
good time
yeah,
to
we
have
are
this
looking at that, and we're
conversation.
taking that
Yeah.
into consideration as well. Yes, ma'am. We are trying to access every avenue we can to get the most. Again, it's for the city of Palatka, so it's the best thing for us.
Commissioner Jones.
Would you also consider getting resources from the sheriff's office, because they do share that shooting range with you guys? Is that?
That's correct. We currently get resources from them now, and they help with the maintenance as well as the berm repairs. Matter of fact, yesterday we actually had a plan a day to go out and do some of that. We had some things come up that we couldn't, so it's been rescheduled. But the sheriff's office is full on board on helping with participating and doing all of that.
Shared costs.
Anything else, Chief?
Yes. Next, we talked about our crime comparisons. As most of you know, we're moving from UCR to NIBRS. UCR crime, well, just a little bit about it. NIBRS is National Incident-Based Reporting System. NIBRS is an incident-based reporting system in which law enforcement collects data on each crime occurrence designed to generate as a byproduct of local, state, federal, and automated record system. Unlike UCR, where UCR had the 8-part 1 crime, NIBRS collects 24 crime categories up to 52 specific crimes called Class A or Group A offenses. In addition to the Group A offenses, there are 10 Group B offenses categories and for which the arrest data is collected. So what we're facing, and what I'm going to try to explain to you in this next report, what we are facing is comparing, since last year we went off the UCR, comparing apples to oranges, while at the same time going ahead, moving forward to into NIBRS. So what I've done for you is in 2020 for year to date through March, January through March, I have in the first two columns, 2020 and 2021 are the UCR data. This is for our violent crimes. As you can see for UCR, total violent crimes, we would be down 26.2%. But when you add additional NIBRS cases to go along with that, we go up and we only go down negative 9.8%. As it begins to change. So we are affecting it in a couple different areas. And on the last slide, you'll see where it gets to be difficult. On our next slide is our property crimes. Property crimes, again, are listed. Same thing for UCR for the first two columns. In comparison for 20 to 21, we are down 40% to year to date for property crimes. And then when you add in the additional NIBRS cases, we are still down a negative 29.9%, which once again, I'm excited about until we get to the additional 52 crimes. So the total crimes, the other crimes we talked about, you're gonna see in the other miscellaneous offenses. Under the miscellaneous offenses, you'll see where the crime increases, and those crimes are crimes such as criminal mischief and different minor little crimes that's attached on to other crimes that weren't counted. So if I committed burglary, and in the burglary, I damaged property and did a couple other things. The only crime that's going to be counted under UCR is the burglary. It would be the first crime. The other crimes wouldn't be counted. Under NIBRS now, all of those crimes are counted. So when you get the additional crimes, you'll see now where we say we're comparing apples to oranges when you look at what we did last year for our crime stats. So that's why we have them in both columns, but we also are tracking them with the NIBRS side. So next year when we get the slide, and you'll be getting this on a regular basis now, you'll get it at the end of the month, each month. I'll present it to you so you can monitor it and see where we're going. But then next year when we're comparing it, we're comparing NIBRS to NIBRS so you can see where we are.
So your so when the UCR, only your primary gets counted?
That's correct, sir.
And then all your secondaries get counted with the new NIBRS system
So
as well.
last year, UCR only counted your primary crimes. This year, under NIBRS, everything gets counted.
And so that's why you end up seeing some agencies have those significant drops based upon the way they were way it was reported. I mean, that's a real question. Because I saw some agencies reporting astronomical drops based upon what was in place. So it's a hypothetical. Hypothetically, that's what happened. We'll take the absence of a response as the answer I was looking for. Okay.
That's kind of difficult because I don't have access to the reporting system. So.
And I do have this question. If a burglary takes place and several individuals are involved, are they counted as, is that one or two? How you get what I'm saying?
So
example,
yes, I
If a
exactly.
fight happens at school and it's 3 individuals involved, we tie it to the one incident versus 3 separate incidences.
That's
Get what I'm
correct.
saying?
So where NIBRS affects you at, it affects you on the back end. Remember we talked about those 10 crimes on the back end that affects for arrest. So if you made an arrest and you had 3 individuals, it would hit you on the front end for 1 incident. But on the back end, it hits you 3 separate times because of those 3 separate arrests.
Could you go back to the batteries? Okay. So it was up there. You just passed.
Hold on, I'm sorry. It didn't go all the way back. There it goes.
Okay. So explain the battery from between UCR and then NIBRS.
Okay, batteries are the same. So for instance, anything for UCR, again, is part one. So if in me as an assailant, if I was to commit aggravated battery on you, but yet simple battery on the mayor, then on the UCR, the only crime that would be counted would be the aggravated battery. You understand? Under NIBRS, every one of them are counted. Also in UCR, you see aggravated assault and aggravated battery. We have that in that column. That's where we broke it out. UCR doesn't classify it as aggravated battery. Everything is assault. So you wouldn't see simple battery or you wouldn't see battery. You would see assault. You would see a regular assault or aggravated assault. But for clear purposes and when explaining it to the public, because we understand it and the public understands it as aggravated battery or simple battery instead of just assault, we broke it up in both categories so you can see it as such.
So your 4 lines would actually just be 1.
2. It would be battery.
Battery and assault.
Battery and aggravated battery would not be on there. It just would be assault and aggravated assault. The numbers would still be the same as far as blending those columns together, but you wouldn't see anything with battery associated to it.
And after this year, it's gonna be straight numbers.
Once this year is over, yes, sir, it would be straight NIBRS because then we wouldn't have to anything compared to the year before as far as UCR. So we would be looking at all NIBRS crime and that's how we will be calculating. Yes, sir.
I don't know, we talked a little bit about CompuStats and actually dissemination of information publicly. Can you go over a little bit of what some of the things you're looking at doing with
Sure.
that?
So in the last couple of years, I provided any commissioner that asked for any kind of statistical data on the different areas. And I didn't actually do it within a form. So we're going to do it 2 parts. And with the assistance of the mayor, I was able to speak with Chief Young from Daytona. And we looked over a couple of different things and I thought it would fit perfectly for our area. I did blend it a little bit to be a little bit more in our area. And you're going to see, like I said, I'm going to be providing this report for you on a monthly basis. But you're going to see us break it up in a little bit different method. And we're waiting on some things to be corrected with our system. So when I looked at areas that we had an increase, such as we had an increase in motor vehicle theft, and we also had an increase in criminal mischief. When I look at those areas, we're going to break it down on the map to see the areas that it's occurring. So we can show the problems areas, and we can also show what we are looking at doing to combat that and begin reducing that. So you're going to see this begin to build, and those items will be shown to you as well. And then the reason for presenting it at the commission meeting is not only to allow for you to see what we have, but also the public to see as well what the numbers are and what we are doing to address it.
Just one point, and I think I'm aligned with you when you said you all kind of look at the types of incidents, the times and the locations, and that's something that we do because we'll know, students usually know where admin is a certain time of the day, and that's when the behaviors are higher, they escalate. So is that something like what you all do, kind of look at the incident types, the times and the locations that they take place, and then determine where you're going to patrol those areas? Or
that's exactly what we do currently. So what you won't see is we won't be able to break down and go in depth of the investigation that may be on there. So we won't go in depth of investigation. We won't put up on the screen exactly where our patrols and our times and stuff will be. We just will be showing you the crimes, where they occurred, and how we will be affecting basically our plans to affect that area. Yes. Well, it's going to include also patrol and detectives as well, and specialty units. Yes, our current report system is SmartCop. For the mapping portion and the one that we're needing to get SmartCop, when NIBRS changed, it changed a little bit. So our command central basically gives us our data for our analytical data to be able to address the hot spots and different things like that. They're not matching up right now. All right. So we're not able to pull some of that to see in a real-time basis to see where it is. We're having to do it manually. So that's why you don't see the mapping and which zone it's occurring in and different things like that broken out on these screens. Command Central does it for us already. We're in communications for them to get that taken care of, and hopefully it will be taken care of by the next meeting.
Are y'all using GIS layers?
We're not going as deep as to use GIS layers for that purpose. Am I correct when I say that?
Well, Command Central is using GIS mapping.
Okay.
So it's putting the bullet points all over the map. And then
Oh, okay.
then from there, it's moving things down to address, or we'll show the hot spots, like what Chief said earlier. The more dots that are there, the larger the footprint gets for the hot spot. And it breaks all the analytics down for us as far as times, days. You can even hover over on Command Central, you can even hover over a specific point. And when the two programs are communicating the way that they should, you can click on that bullet point and it will take you straight to that police report so that anybody can read that report that has access to the system. Obviously, it's a secure system because there's secret related issues on it.
Y'all got a pretty serious relational database behind that, but okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
That's it. All right, Chief, question. As your challenges thus far are your staffing, your retention, things of that nature. What's your, how's the academy working for you right now, minority recruitment program?
Well, for us, it's kind of hard. And the reason why I say that is the academy currently is either in St. Johns County or it's in Jacksonville. And the big fish get to eat first. So we usually get what's left. Unless we find and send somebody, we recruit and send somebody or identify somebody early on in the class where they haven't applied. We've been sending people over to the academy to communicate. We send anyone from a seasoned veteran to a brand new officer to be able to communicate with the classes and talk with the classes and get our recruiting in as early as possible. It's most of the people we get from the academy are fresh out of the academy. But I can tell you, when you go look at an academy class of 26, we're getting a pool of about 5.
Any other questions?
Well, we get application pool, about 5 of them. Usually about out of the application pool, you might be hiring 1.
So his answer, his unofficial answer is no, but he's gonna say maybe. So he's gotta learn his language. No. All right, Chief, thank you.
You're welcome. I'm passing the baton to
Finance.
All right, so my name is Lauren Shank. I believe I've met a majority of the people in this room. I am 9 days into the finance department, and so I will be brief for you, I promise. All right, so just going over our department staff and the duties. We are a department of 4, myself, Jill, Jackie, and Sherry. We handle the purchase order approval process in our office, budget transfers, journal entries. Those are all done within ADG. We create and post cash receipts, AR and AP transactions. For those that don't know, AR is accounts receivable and AP is accounts payable. Vendor and customer creation, as well as debt management. We reconcile the bank statements, pension statements, and vendor statements. File reports with state, federal, and pension. We also do the ADG training, and that consists of also putting users into the system and getting them acclimated as well. We are the point of contact for the auditors. We are currently underway with the audit, looking good so far. My staff has been working very hard on the audit, as well as assisting with the human resources part of the audit as well. It's not just financials. There are other aspects that we've had to pick up. And then, of course, we've also been assisting with HR in general, among with other staff too. Very high level. I wasn't going to dive into every single fund. I'm more than happy to provide more in-depth financial reports if you would like. I just figured out today how to run reports, so that is heaven for me. That's my love language. But as you can see right now, we're pretty on target with revenues coming in. We're about 46% collected, and we have 54% that's unrealized. Unrealized means that it just has not come in yet, but trending, we're doing very good. As far as expenditures, we're doing very good. Please do not spend any money. But this also,
Another finance person.
save it all. The expenditures and the revenues, I do want to note that that does also include your grants. I didn't parse them out for the simple reason that this is your adopted budget numbers and what's been spent year to date as of the end of March and what's been posted. So I have to add in all those asterisks. As far as your proposed budget guidelines, I have not gotten exact direction. Of course, I have only been here 9 days, but just in my experience and best practices, I do know right off the bat, typically you want to remain unchanged with your millage. I don't think anyone up there is for tax increases. One of my main priorities is going to be diversifying revenue streams. Point blank, the city needs to find ways to bring in more revenue to accommodate the needs of the city. So that's something that I'm going to be diving in more and looking into. Mainly right on the forefront, aside from the other department needs, of course, that are mandated. Typically, year to year, you'll see a lot of unfunded mandated increases. Most notably, Florida Amendment 2. Everyone thinks of that as the $15 minimum wage. So that's something that is on our forefront as well. Luckily, we have time to get that implemented. We have until 2026. But also keep in mind, anytime you have one-time revenue resources, so any savings that are one-time savings, aside from going to one-time expenditures, we really like for that to go to your reserves. Any questions? I'm sure you do.
Questions?
Great job.
Based upon what you've seen thus far, what's the biggest threat from a financial standpoint that comes out immediately?
Lack of revenue streams. Missed opportunities.
And so I know you've worked in various communities and also been special assigned to other communities. In Flagler, per se, Flagler, looking at Flagler, how many people do you have how many staff people were in the finance department?
In our finance department, we were a staff of 6. 2 newly created positions in the last fiscal year, and one of them being grant accounting, which is a monumental task. It affects you greatly as well.
And that was for the county.
Correct.
And you also kind of took over in Benel. What were your numbers over there?
Myself.
Just one.
I believe at the time they had 5, maybe 6 staff members, but they all left overnight, pretty much.
And
So
they had 5 or 6 in finance.
correct, but they also handled purchasing as well, and then utility billing, collecting, and rental facilities.
So various other capacities as well.
Mhm.
Okay. Any other questions?
Y'all are
Week
going
3, you
easy
get
on
more
me.
information.
Yeah, definitely let me know. I can hone down to specific departments, revenue streams. I can put it all in pretty format and charts for you, however you receive it, or like to see it, I can do it for you.
First 2 weeks, we try to be really nice to you. The 3rd week, they give you a lot more information.
Listen, I was prepared. I broke down even more by fund, but
She was just
I
holding
figured you
back.
guys wouldn't want to be here all night.
She was just holding back.
We have another Logan.
Yeah,
I do have a chance. I have a question, like Lauren. Seeing the needs that the departments have on their wish list, how do you see us achieving those goals? Some of them are ways out with the communication devices and things. Of course, you're probably just not hearing this for the first time, so that's an unfair question, so I'll just scratch that.
No, I can tell you just from sitting over there and taking some notes, in my experience, we used what we called decision units, and we actually let the departments tell us their needs. It documented them, but they were also responsible for coming up with the justification, alternatives, and potential funding sources. Because of course, finance, we're here to help you figure it out, but we don't just want to hear the problems, we want to hear solutions too. So I'm definitely excited. For me, it's kind of like little puzzles. So we'll see.
Great. So there's the invite, chief and chief.
Yeah, I've
to go
already-
in.
I've already sent out and they've gotten budgets back to me. So that's going to be my next step, is going over their budgets with them and sitting down.
The first answer from finance is always no, and the second answer is no way.
And that's one of the purposes of this meeting, to connect the dots, and connect the departments with each other so that we could, we could have solutions. We could come to solutions and to
Yeah.
our problems. So
I'm pretty
not,
sure everyone in here got an email from me about their budget.
all right.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Next up, Public Works, Mr. Ladd.
Good evening. Someone might have to help me with this. Okay. So, there we go. Public Works Department right now, currently we have 31 active employees. It's actually budgeted right now. We currently have 7 budgeted vacant positions at the moment. Since I've taken over in October, we've implemented a reoccurring schedule for our fleet. Mainly, it's mostly sanitation at the time, because that's where the biggest things are breaking down at the moment. And right now we're in the process of servicing one of our older fleet vehicles as a backup. And it's one that we can actually dump the dumpsters as well. So we can use it either residential or commercial. Oops. Sanitation department right now has 16 budgeted positions. We have a superintendent, supervisor, 5 drivers/operators, 5 laborers. We currently have 2 labor positions that are vacant and 2 driver positions that are vacant. We are in the process of actually scanning or reviewing one now for hire. The equipment, we have a front loader and the CIP for replacement. I believe it's for this year. Jonathan may have to help me on some of the numbers. And a superintendent truck to replace Ed's truck, which is a 2005 pickup.
Yeah, he
We're
never wants
looking
to
at
get rid
possibly
of that
doing,
truck.
I'm sorry?
He never wants to get rid of that truck.
We're currently looking at doing dumpster repairs and painting some of the dumpsters in-house, because right now we're at a 7 to 8 week turnaround for delivery. And we're in the process of talking to the drivers about cross-training on all the equipment. That's sanitation. Water and sewer, 11 budgeted positions, superintendent, supervisor, mechanic/vacuum truck operator. 5 licensed operators in the field. That's not including the superintendent and supervisors. We have 1 customer service clerk, which is on his payroll. And the administrative assistant, which was Glenda that just left us, was on his payroll as well, which we were actually looking for her now. Proposing possibly looking at another operator trainee in the future, to put the supervisor more into a supervisory role, so he's not taking another laborer or trainee with him to look at jobs. Equipment, we need a backhoe. The vacuum truck replacement, which we've been talking about for years. I think, but Rhett has it budgeted for possibly a service truck and a pickup truck. And correct me if I'm wrong, we were talking about possibly trying to do 2 trucks to update some of the older trucks. And one of the trucks is a 90. So we have some dated equipment.
Question.
Water line projects, I'm sorry.
Before we get there,
Yes.
equipment. I know one of the things we talked about historically, how many backhoes do we have in the city?
2.
And so is that a sufficient number for many of the things that we need? I know we end up with various needs and other places. There's always been a shortage. It's something that me and Mr. Griffith talked about in the past as well as Mr. Chandler. So,
Currently, we have one backhoe that we had just replaced. It was within the last 2, possibly 3 years.
that was
The other backhoe was a 2004, I believe.
right.
So it's needed. And the older one, we can actually keep at the yard as a yard machine.
So 2 is sufficient for what you're doing daily?
Yes. Well, not really, because the other one's so old.
3 would be ideal, right?
Yes.
So you need 2 in
Exactly.
you would need 2 in the field, ideally 2 in the field and one.
That way we're
and
not
one on
running
the
back
yard.
and forth up and down the roads with the
Kind of
equipment.
keep the older one at the yard or whatever. Right. Yeah, I thought we were running short on what we really needed as far as the backhoe. And what's the cost? What's the cost on the backhoe on average? What, about 30? A little more than 30.
A little more.
Yeah, get your yard tractor with a backhoe extension on it.
We have had some issues here recently with Napoleon Street, needed the water main replaced. That's done. We have the county working on the storm system up on Old Jacks at Tolls Road. They've had to disassemble some of our water main there. We're in the process of putting that water main back together Monday to get all the flow tied back together. That's pretty much it for now.
That's 14th and 15th Napoleon.
No, Old Tolls Road up by James A. Long. Right there with the
Oh, yeah.
storm
Oh,
ditch
the
comes
back
out.
town, Old Jacks Highway.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah,
Napoleon, we had a couple concerns with some of the customers lost pressure, and it was like we were hunting a leak. Right.
That's 14th, 15th, right?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, I misunderstood you. Yes, sir. Street department, we currently have 6 budgeted positions: superintendent, supervisor, 1 driver/operator, which is our street sweeper. 2 laborers. We have 2 labor positions that are vacant. Projected equipment replacement, we try to replace our 0-turn mowers for the mowing and keeping the maintenance up in parks and cemeteries and everything, 1 per year. We've been looking at trying to get a 28-foot flatbed so we can actually haul our lift to the station or to the airport or one of the other places in the city. Currently, it's like $200 or $250 to actually transport it. We're having to use somebody else to transport our equipment. So that would save us there. Inmate work crews is our big thing right now. As of tomorrow, we will not have a guard. They're pulling all the guards in, so we won't have any inmates. I've already spoke to the warden possibly about recertifying some of our staff to pick the crews up. That's in the works now. I think there still needs to be some other conversations between Mr. Holmes and Jonathan, possibly with the warden on this. But if it all goes through, we should be able to pick up the crews again around April 30th, May 1st.
And we,
Sure.
and we,
Sean,
We did get word from Department of Corrections that they are gonna refund us for no-shows. They're gonna refund us for the time that they won't be out. But this will be on your April 22nd agenda for consideration.
and we also talked a little bit about the issue with the prison and the conversation with the warden. We've got the unusual luxury of having a former warden who works for PPD, which may be, I think, a great resource as we start to move forward with those things. Commissioner Bourne?
yes, sir. Hey, you mentioned $250 per transport.
Yes, sir.
But how many transports do we have a week or a month?
It's not, we're probably averaging before, probably 6 a year.
6 a year. Okay.
Yeah, but it's just, it's an inconvenience sometimes or inconvenience when we're having to wait on somebody when they need the lift at the airport or over at the River Center or something like that.
Just need to look at the options, and that's the money lady over there.
Mhm.
She helped you with the solutions.
The dumpsters, we do have dumpsters placed all over our cemeteries. I know that's been a concern in the past. That is definitely working. We're actually dumping the dumpsters now twice a week to keep the cemeteries a little more cleaner.
That happened as a result of a meeting that we held with some of the, all of the funeral directors in town were invited, as well as the monument services to help us understand what it might do to improve the cemeteries. One of the things that was suggested was to place dumpsters there at the cemeteries to avoid some of the trash being thrown on the ground, and we did. And I think Sean's told me that that seems to have been an improvement. And there are other things we did too. I won't go into those right now and interrupt his presentation.
Looking at getting quotes for the fencing at Oak Hill East. It's the older of the two cemeteries on Palm Avenue. It has been some issues with people going in and out through the wooded area behind Crestwood. And then we got a lot of tree removal this year. We need to start working on some of this in Westview, which is by the railroad tracks on the underpass. Facilities, 2 positions, supervisor and laborer. Justin just recently gotten his traffic signal tech certification. Justin can give us a little bit more of what that entails.
Justin, come on up to the microphone so we don't work Sonny too hard.
And for those who don't know you, go ahead and introduce yourself as well.
No worries. What it entails is when I communicate with Alan from Somerville Electric, who does our maintenance work, I just have a better understanding on what he's communicating to me. And so, in the future, if we need to ask for any replacements or upgrades on our cabinets, I have a general idea of what we're replacing, not just a number saying we need parts. And it does give me the opportunity to move forward to where in the future, I can help do some of those replacements and some of the maintenance.
Congratulations and thank you.
Congratulations.
And if you don't mind, I'll let Justin touch base on the next couple bullet points. He's actually in the process of working on these as well.
So we currently have 10 bridge lights out right now. Generally, when we go out to replace bridge lights, we try to have the county there with their bucket truck, so we don't have to make more than one trip out to do repairs. So if the bulb needs to be replaced, fuse needs to be replaced, we have all equipment on hand. They're currently working on it. Hopefully it'll be back in service within the next week or two. We'll get those 10 lights up and working. Jonathan and myself have put together and got quotes from Somerville Electric to rewire the bridge lights. The wiring up there is quite outdated, and to be able to change to LED heads, which is obviously more efficient as far as, cost and replacement. So that's in the works now.
That was also a conversation with DOT as well, right?
Yes.
About getting some additional funding for that.
Will those lights be as bright as the ones on the East Palatka side?
They'll actually be a little brighter. If you travel the bridge at night, we have 2 sets of LEDs in place right now. We just put up last year. Jonathan was able to give me some funding out of our own pocket to do that. And so the 2 lights that are on the top of the bridge have new wiring in the pole and also have new heads there. So that'll give you an idea. They are 5,000 K LED lights, and they give us a wider span of light, so we don't get the darkness in between the poles and also on the sidewalks.
Good.
And the cameras at the riverfront, we put in a new camera system down there at the river taxi terminal building. All of them are in place and working, other than 2 that we're going to put in the field. We just need to trench across the field. I have the poles to place them, so we'll have cameras at the playground, so we can monitor any, after hours, people that aren't supposed to be there, vandalism, anything like that.
We were having a problem with vandalism at the playground and at the River Center. It's our hope that the cameras, along with some presence from the police who've established a substation there at the, I guess it's the water taxi terminal, that will help with the vandalism in both the bathrooms at the River Center and also some vandalism that was occurring, unfortunately, in the playground there that's on the riverfront.
In most of our parks.
So I probably need to work with y'all on that too, especially if those cameras are really, really good cameras that has pretty good resolution, where you can actually identify the subject, whatever it may be, because I also work on the, I have, what's the board? But anyway, we're working with Shirley Griffith, and they're having some problems down in Palatka with some vandalism and different things of that nature. So if I can grab that information from you guys, maybe you guys can kind of help them with their problem.
Mark, our IT guy from Inspired Tech, he had a lot in the hand on helping us order the cameras and stuff. They're through a company called Unified Protect. But
you know, we haven't used them we've used them only for about 6 months now, but we've got great quality in the cameras and, you know, daytime, nighttime video, audio, you know, everything.
Okay, yes, so the better place plan, that's what I'm on about.
And then the last one, just working in conjunction with Mr. Eddie Cutright over at Community Affairs on any of his facilities and buildings. I work hand in hand with him, you know, for any repairs or anything like that that's needed, so.
And you do like the mowing schedule and all that as well, right?
No, sir, that's all under Jermaine for the parks, grounds, things like that. I just take care of the building maintenance.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And I think that's all we have.
Thanks, Sean. Good job.
Thank you.
Next up, airport. Mr. Yule. Commissioner Campbell, just chime in if you have a question or anything. We know we got you in virtual land. I think you already gave me that. Yeah, your signal's breaking up too, Commissioner.
Commissioner Campbell will have to upgrade from Windstream.
I heard that.
25-3. All right.
Do we want to wait on Commissioner Joe?
No.
Good afternoon, Commission. My name is John Ewell, and I'm here to talk a little bit about the airport and where we're going. And we got Mr. Matt Singletary from Passrow Associates, our consulting firm, to help out if need be. In order to know where you want to go, it helps to know a little bit about where you've been. Good, next slide. And since 2004, we've gone from this, that's looking where the terminal building is located from Highway 100 back around 2004. So we've gone from this and this by way of our original planning committee. I particularly like this gentleman right here, that's buck naked. I think he was in charge of airport appearance. To this. This. And this. This is a gentleman by the name of Arthur Billingsley, who rents a hangar out at the airport. And he was featured in a magazine called Cessna Flyer that comes out monthly. And he was kind enough to bring his airplane down and get us on the cover of the magazine for that month. And there's an 8-page article in that magazine that talks about how he got into aviation and everything. Very, very good article. Really, really nice gentleman. Okay, and all we had to do to get from there to here was change our planning committee. This is our airport advisory board, and I think everybody knows everybody in there. And some more help from a new planning committee. This was a meeting about a year ago. You remember Mayor? And I'll point out some of the people in here. This is Secretary of Transportation Tebow for the state. This is the District 2 Secretary. And of course, see Mayor Lawson Brown there, the Commissioner, newspaper, County Commissioner. And the room was full of, you know, a lot of good people here. And this is the other side of the room. You see Mr. John Brown kind of set this meeting up. And then there was Mr. Wayne McLean, Judge Newfeld, the High Sheriff. And one of the gentlemen probably most responsible for all the improvements that you've seen out at the airport, Mr. Andrew Halesko. He is the CEO of Passrow Associates. He's been our consultant for a long time. And he also taught, still teaching airport development.
He's an adjunct professor at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, and his specialty is airport development. So, I mean, who better to have for your advice on how to grow an airport than somebody who teaches it? One day I asked Andrew, I said, what do you like about your job? Everybody kind of has a particular aspect they like about their jobs. And he said, I like chasing the money, John. He said, that's my so he keeps well versed in legislation and FAA and our Florida FAA funding and Florida Department of Transportation funding. So he's very responsible for all of the improvements you've seen at the airport. And here's a list of projects that have happened since 2004. There are 24 separate projects here. And the total is $22 million that we put into the airport since about 2004. That list that you have in your hand, if you look on the second page where it's got a green asterisk next to grant funding that Palatka has received, when you get a chance, please compare that with other towns of similar size and even smaller towns. And you will see that the Federal Aviation Administration and the Florida Department of Transportation has been very, very good to this airport and this community. Once a year, we go over our list of projects that we would like to see accomplished with the Department of Transportation and the FAA. This gets reviewed and it gets massaged just about monthly by the Airport Advisory Board. Sometimes need changes. For instance, we were planning on breaking ground on some T hangars one year. Then we had an opportunity to buy 5 acres of land, and we needed to buy the land before somebody else purchased it. So we were able to move that funding around. This is just kind of a general wish list for looking out till 2027. But the funding does get moved around from year to year. And these are our short-term priorities. One of the most important priorities up there, because we know revenue is near and dear to our financial hearts. The second project, we're getting ready to break ground on a new row of T hangars. The T hangars are funded 100% by the Department of Transportation. So what that means is the day that's finished, they start generating revenue to the tune about a seven unit facility would bring about $27,000 additional revenue per year for the airport. The main entrance, we're interested in relocating it in between the Moose Lodge and the storage facility. I don't know if you've noticed, but that has a turn lane. That has its own turn lane. Right now, to turn into the airport is kind of dangerous turning off the Highway 100 with the log trucks and everything. So that's a good safety move. And we get about 5 additional acres out of that we hope to come up with some way of making money off of that. What am I doing wrong here? I'm pushing the same button. Okay, these are the resources. We got runways, and then the other 6 items you see there are our revenue generating facilities at the airport. I'll go over these one at a time. This is what the airport looks like from the air. We have a 6,000-foot east-west runway, and in fact, it's a great picture, isn't it? How nice Palatka looks from the air. And you'd be hard pressed to find towns of similar size with a 6,000-foot runway. That's a real feather in our cap here. We have 64 T hangars, and we just raised rent on those beginning in January. We have 3 commercial hangars, commercial businesses operating in them. We have 4 executive hangars for storing multiple aircraft. And we have 2 buildings, the old terminal building, and then the land you see there and the land that the Skydive building sits on is leased to Skydive Palatka. And the east office on the terminal building is our Florida Aviation Professionals Flight School that started there a couple years ago. And this is our self-serve fuel facility. And you can see from the pavement there, this is one, I think this is about the last pavement on the entire airport that hasn't been redone since 2007.
How often do you change your fuel prices?
Every time we take a tanker load, we look at what we paid for the last tanker load and we adjust the fuel prices based on what we just paid for a tanker load.
How often do you get a tanker load?
We went through a tanker load of 100 load lead about once a month, and Jet A about one every 2 months.
Yeah, I was talking to someone and they change their fuel prices daily. And if you go to the gas stations around here, fuel prices have escalated over the last 30 days. And so it may be an opportunity, we may be missing opportunities on revenue just based on the fact of how frequencies that are out there. Because you've basically had gas prices increase roughly in the last 90 days by almost 80 cents per gallon.
Up and up.
I don't know how that affects jet fuel, but I'm sure it has to be something very similar.
And this is our operational budget only. This is the money we take in from rent and fuel and tie downs and everything. Does it pay for electricity, salaries, water? This is from last year. It does not include the debt service or the airport improvement program. And we did have a $25,000 match last year. So you can take that out of here and you can see what that did to us, you know.
So, and I guess my question with that is, at one point we found ourselves where the airport was almost at a break even, including the debt service, and now we're finding we were close. Far different than where we are now. Are we? And I know we're looking creatively for revenue streams. Are there any propositions or any thoughts as to what we can do to generate additional revenues with existing resources in order to get us to a point where we start to cover more of the debt service that's out there, even though we know it's coming off in the next couple of years, but getting to a point where we don't find ourselves increasing debt service in order to make certain improvements, i.e. maintenance on new T hangers, things of that nature, as we try to get the airport to a point of self-sufficiency.
Yeah, the debt service is tough because you'll see in a minute, there's a loan payment on that is about $150,000 a year. That has been the ugly burden on the general public. And I don't know if it's not so much a revenue generator, but maybe an expense reducer. I don't know if anybody's ever considered the thought of partnering with the county. And like you talked about partnering with the county on pistol range. I don't know if there's any help that the county could give us.
Good luck.
Of course, that doesn't help revenue, but the additional property, the new entrance, maybe there's something we could do with that. And we've got some more jets have been coming in here. We've got kind of the big, hopefully a big thing going on with the resort. The Bass Pro Shop is currently building, and they come down more often. Matter of fact, I think they're doing this evening. And another new business out of the barge port. They have a jet, and hopefully they'll come and go more often. It would be nice to get more jets in here to sell more jet fuel.
Mr. Yule,
Go ahead.
other than the car show, how do people hear about Palatka Airport and what we provide and how they can utilize us to get revenue?
Like the internet, website, and as far as aircraft traveling back and forth, they're kind of prone to stop where their fuel will start to run out. They will.
I guess a better question would be, are we promoting it anyway? That could help us.
Yeah, before Corona hit, we did increase our advertising budget And we actually went around to some trade fair, a trade fair in Atlanta, Georgia. And we were starting to get out and go to more things and pass out marketing material. So.
Okay. Next slide, Sonny. You got something, Mr.
I
Holmes?
will mention that. We've been talking about the very questions that you've been asking about whether we have a plan for the airport that is now current in terms of the times, the changes that have occurred in aviation, the changes that have occurred in the geographic area, those sorts of things. And we've talked about, and I believe that we've found funding for what amounts to a feasibility study to be conducted by somebody objective and with expertise in the area that might tell us where they think the Palatka Airport will fit in the picture, in the aviation picture, in the next 10 or 15 years. So what we've been doing, or what has been done in the last number of years, has been, and I'm not saying it's wrong, but it's just been finding funding for T-hangars. And that has a certain income, but it also has a certain maintenance expense, as the mayor indicated, and all that maintenance expense hasn't really been, the maintenance hasn't really been probably kept to the standard we'd like it to be. So our thought is, you know, for someone who makes their business of studying trends and possibilities and feasibilities, to give us an idea of what we could do at the airport that would make us more attractive, whether that be increasing the length of our runway to accommodate larger aircraft, whether it be attempting to attract a freight hauler into our area. I don't know that you're going to attract an airline or an air carrier into this area, but who knows? But perhaps a freight hauler that would have facilities that could employ people. I mean, what if you were able to get some form of sub hub for Amazon or FedEx or whatever? So I'm not telling you that I have that expertise, nor do I think any of us necessarily in the room do, but we've found some money that we think we might be able to use to get someone from outside to take a look at it and give us an idea of where we might fit in the next 10 years of aviation, or 15 years.
So we're looking to do an RFP or something.
Sure.
We're looking to do an RFP or something.
Right, exactly. Yep, RFQ, RFP. And give us some expertise on whether, because of our proximity, we would fit in. Remember, we're changing in that you're going to soon have a 4-lane access to Gainesville, which is to 75. We have a 4-lane access already down to 95. And you have some south. So maybe now we're at a point where we weren't before, where some regional freight hauler or freight distribution firm finds us attractive, because we do have advantages. It's a nice airport. It doesn't have high activity levels, meaning your airplanes could go in and out more quickly than maybe they could at some of the more higher traffic airports, those kinds of things. But we think it's time that we think a little bit with some outside, some new thought processes. And so Jonathan and I have been working. We think we have some grant money that we can use for that purpose, and then see where that takes us.
I think the other piece of it is also to look at the efficiencies as far as where we are and if we maximize our opportunities from a financial standpoint. When you look at our rent, when you look at our hangar rents and things of that nature, and you look at surrounding airports where they're waitlisted for a number of years, we're still providing hangar rentals at rates less than theirs, and we have new hangars when they're waitlisted everywhere else, and we've almost got our own captive audience to an extent. I think all those things we look at. We've talked about the air show, and Mr. Yu suggested getting a promoter or someone in place to see where we would be with the air show. It's become a very huge event, and thousands of folks coming in, but it's an event that's primarily free.
Exactly.
And so those are all opportunities, I think, as we start to build on these things. When you've created the following for 3 decades, it puts you in a position where you can now start to look at, how you can generate revenues without necessarily breaking the bank of the people who've been supportive of you over the years, but being able to at least cover your cost and also taking the burden off of your committees and volunteers to deal with some of the aspects of what's in place. So I think when we look at all those, we've talked for a while, and even Pastor Rose presented some information and opportunities to put in retail establishments in the front of the airport, all those different things. But we're at a point where it's time to start to pull the trigger on some of those opportunities, particularly as we see that debt projected to come off in 23 or 24, assuming that we don't create any new debt. And so my biggest concern is making sure that the airport finds itself financially in a situation similar to what happened with the golf course, where we're operating in the black and cutting checks back to the general fund, as opposed to continually paying the debt service without really kind of funding from that standpoint. So I think those are just some of the ways that we're looking to build things up.
Next slide,
Bless
please.
you.
Bless you.
Bless you. Next slide. And just to give you an idea of how good the FAA and the FDOT have been to us, you see we did have a $25,000 match last year. This year, the FAA has graciously agreed to fund our next project at 100%, which was going to be a $23,000 match on our part, but we don't have that this year. So hopefully that trend continues, like you said, Mayor, that we keep our debt down.
We've definitely been blessed in getting 100% funded grants coming in. Pastor Ro's done a great job as it relates to the grant funding that's been in place. We just have to push forward as far as revenue production.
Yes, sir. Think ahead. Okay. Well, that concludes my briefing. Are there any questions?
Any questions from the commission, comments?
Just, thanks.
I do think we're kind of on the cusp. We're in a good location, in a good way, especially with the outer band road being built around Jacksonville, how that's going to bring new business to the area. And I see us as a kind of a general aviation reliever or a cargo plane reliever for Jacksonville airports and St. Augustine.
You had a special visitor come in last week, right?
Yes, yes. The CEO of Under Armour came in to visit us, the creator of Under Armour. So we just need some more of those.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Commissioner Board, you got something? All right. Thank you, Mr. Yu. Chief, you got something else? The only one that winning teams.
Earlier, right?
Community affairs. Mr. Cutright.
How you doing, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Since we're going way back in history, I'm gonna take y'all back to 1804.
I stated the last, but maybe not last enough.
Oh, don't give me the bell. I have you on the phone, but you're not here, so I'm here to the job. Okay, before we get started, everybody stand up and shake the hands out, get loose, because I want y'all to be very alert with my presentation. For Sonny, how do you work this? I see George, you have the card.
Mr. Cutright, could you take off your?
We can't. You talking to Mike, sir?
Can you talk?
Yeah, I will once I get here. Commissioner, Mayor, and department heads and city manager. This is about the Community Affairs Department. We're gonna start out with the culture art side. And the main thing we're gonna communicate about is gonna be the dollar rentals first. I'm not gonna read verbatim because I gave everybody a package and you can kind of see what's going on. But on the dollar rentals, the houses are the Brunson Holland House, Hammock Hall, Larimer Art Center, Tillman House, Waterworks, and Willie Cooper Building. Those buildings are been in the city's possession for a while. Some of the contracts had expired and we're trying to update them. Some of the contracts are over 27 years old with people names on them that has passed on. So we're trying to change new ink on that. We are functioning at an $18,000 budget to repairs and keep those houses up. As you look down this sheet of paper and you look at some of the houses, we're right now going to function at right about $75,000 to do the repairs on these buildings. It becomes a domino effect now. These buildings are pretty old. These houses are old and maintenance, I'm not gonna put the blame on anybody. Some was done in the past and some wasn't, but now it's catching up with us. We have just the Branch Holland House alone, we have roughly $17,000 on repairs that need to be done. Justin Bridges and myself and Winston, we did a study. We went around and studied all the buildings and see what kind of projects that we need to do priority. I didn't kind of prioritize them. Most of them have roof damages. That's getting worse as we speak because we haven't made it a resolution on whether we're gonna repair them or not. I know a long time ago, about several months ago, we had just on the panel about what we was gonna do with the dollar rentals. And there was a question of whether we was gonna try to rent them out at a higher cost instead of $1 per year or sublease them to the people. But several of the buildings that we have dollar rentals are subleasing it to other people and making money. And we're not getting any revenue from it. And that's where the questions that I want to bring to the commissioners, what we're going to do. It comes to a point where the rubber meets the road on this because it's going to continue to cost the city and the taxpayer money. And I know we'll say that the Brunson Holland House, Hammock Hall and all that has a benefit to the city, but does the benefit to the city outweighs the cost that the city is paying for? And that's the question that you're going to have to ask yourself. I will give you the studies that we have done. I'll give you the data that comes with it, and hopefully y'all can make a decision. In the community affairs department, I have a 5-staff team, myself, Joey Pound, Aaron Hughes, David Green, and Winston Fletcher. I just gave you that, those people. Winston Fletcher is my cultural arts coordinator, so he kind of helps me with that. As we go into other departments, I bring other names up. At the bottom of most of these, you'll see my recommendation, or our staff recommendation. It's just my recommendation, my personal opinion. We will defer to the city manager and the commissioners for what they really, what direction we're going to go.
Can you just go through your recommendations on each one so that you do your report?
Well, on the Brunson Holland House, my recommendation would be to restructure the contract between organizations for financial responsibility and facility care. We need to look at some of these houses kind of taking care of themselves. Hammock Hall, and this might ruffle some feathers, but my recommendation would be to transmit this building.
Your time's not up.
It is?
It's not. Keep going.
Transmit this building through a sale or other means to let the full responsibility to the social South Historical Neighborhood Society. The building has some damages, and I know Mr. Vito has expressed interest of them retaining the house on a full time and taking over responsibilities.
Could you go back because of the phone?
Okay.
Go back, start over with that.
It's written at the bottom of the report.
But you want me to, that Hammock Hall, or you want me to go back to? Well, Hammock Hall, my recommendation was to transition the building through sales or other means to the South Historical Neighborhood Society. Just because I think that the maintenance and the responsibility that's coming down the line, if we don't figure out something, either a grant or anything to do major renovations to these buildings, it's gonna cost us more than more.
And that's one of those buildings that gets leased out and they
It's
keep
a
the
dollar
revenue.
lease, yes.
But they lease it, they sublease
They
it,
sublease it, yes.
So they get it for $1 a year?
and then we maintain it, and then they rent it.
I thought all of our buildings that we went through all of the dollar leases, and I thought the ones that came up for renewal, that the new contract was that the person who was, or entity or agency that was leasing those facilities took on 100% of the maintenance.
This hasn't come up. And this building is technically perceived as being in the city's control, even though South Historic benefits from it.
We gotta fix that yesterday.
Okay. All right, okay, Larimer Arts Center, we recommend restructuring of the contract between the organization for financial responsibility and facility care. And what we mean by that is that we need to close the gap. I mean, we are spending a whole lot more than we're getting in, and they're enjoying the building itself. And they're actually having theaters. I mean, COVID kind of took a hit on a lot of the buildings, but when they was flourishing, they was doing plays and theaters. So the revenue is coming in, but we're not really seeing that money.
And they're leasing that building out. That building's been leased out.
To-
and They're
to
getting a
the-
percentage of the revenues that come in from plays,
Yeah, they do the,
and we maintain it. Right. So every function that goes in there, it's not a lease per se. So on this building, it's not entitled a lease, but conceptually it is a nominal lease. There's the contract, which has expired a while back, says that they're providing cultural art services for the city. And they're basically on a month to month at this time, just because there was an opportunity for the commission to review that. And you look at thousands of dollars coming in through plays, exhibits and other things. And the city, again, maintains the building. For example, the building was pressure washed, or that we contracted someone to pressure wash the building, while we haven't truly occupied it in single capacity for over 20 years. So just those type things.
and then going on with the Tillman House, per record on my ADG sheet that Jill taught me how to look at. Tillman House is probably the one building that we don't have that much expenses in. So, but my recommendation for them is still the same. Make it cost efficient for everybody.
You won't have it yet until it's time to paint that rotten wood.
I'm gonna leave that one alone there. Going forth, moving on, the Willa Cooper Building, which is a food pantry. It has roughly $16,000 worth of damage that need to be done for the roof and also the windows. And we have trees growing outside the eastway of the building. My recommendation is still the same. Either try and find a way to work together and close the gap financially with them, or let them be responsible for it in the city, get the tax money out there.
And if you recall, the Willa Cooper building is the one where we actually gave them the 5 years because they replaced the AC system in that building. And up until recently, we were still mowing that building. I don't know if we're still mowing it now. We stopped as of last year. Last year, we stopped mowing it, but we were mowing that building while tenants were in there. And I think once Stuart Marchman came in, they did significant repairs on their side. On the Heart of Putnam side, there's still a lot of work to be done in that building, and it has an aging structure.
So as I said earlier, we function at an $18,600 budget to maintenance, do repairs for these buildings. As of today, we have spent $10,000 on the repairs of things, but we have a projected of $52,000 we have to spend with the roofing damages that's coming up. And that's just what the estimate we've seen. Now, once we get into the root of it, it might be more money. Okay.
I think we need to look into addressing these
And you know,
issues sooner
over
than
the
later.
last 20 years that I've been attending the meetings, the dollar a year leases have come up a number of times.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's traditionally been quite a bit of opposition to doing anything different with them. So staff doesn't feel comfortable in doing anything different with them without commission direction. So what we had planned to do is put them on your agenda, and either all at once or one at a time, whatever the preference is, and let the commission make a decision about policy as to how you wish us to go forward.
Bring them all.
And as I said, sooner than later.
Well, the thing you gotta understand is most of those leases are gonna renew in January, and so you've got to give a notice. You got a notice requirement that goes along with them, so we need to do it really, I think, before the beginning of this fiscal year.
I'll give you a report on when they expire.
And it was already one generated previously, so it should be pretty
I
simple.
will give them Mr. Holmes.
He has the date, he has the dates of renewal and everything else from the previous report. It's just a matter of, at this point, you know, we've got to make decisions as to whether we're going to explore opportunities for market rate, open up to the public to bid, or whatever the case may be as it relates to these different facilities that are there.
Thanks.
I left out one, and I don't want to, since we live here, I want to make sure I give them their respect. The Waterworks Education Center, San Puritan, they do a wonderful job taking care of maintenance themselves, but there's still some things they need to get fixed and repairs, and we need to get a security system out there. They've had a few vandalism and break-ins, but the same recommendation goes to all the buildings.
And that's one of the places where your volunteers end up, their work, they're worth just significant
Volunteer,
amounts. That system runs on autopilot with them
I
out there. to an
actually
extent.
have to commend her sometimes. They do such a wonderful job out there. Sometimes I do forget about them because they're kind of solid. They're not the squeaky wheel. So sometimes they don't get the grease.
That's what happens when you get a whole bunch of PhDs together, or environmentalists and professors. They make it happen.
But they share that with me all the time about their PhD. The next, you did the slide. I got it, man. Don't touch my slide. Facility rentals. I brought this to your attention because we did a little study and we're looking at adjusting the prices. We went through St. Johns County, we went to not Fayetteville, but Jacksonville and a couple more surrounding counties and trying to figure out the prices to the buildings that we have and the type of buildings. So we're looking at trying to make some adjustments if y'all are entertaining it. New proposals to the Price One Center. It was $75 an hour, $600 a day with a $200 security deposit. We're trying to see if we can do it at same $75 an hour, but now $450 with a $50 cleaning fee. We have had a lot of issues with people renting their facility and not really cleaning it when they leave out and leaving our staff longer time to clean. So we want to kind of put a little bit more onus on cleaning it like you had it, like you got it.
On your stats, on some of your, on your buildings, I know we was in the pandemic or whatever, so you probably won't have a whole lot on that.
Yeah, rentals, we kind of opened up rentals back in November.
Yeah.
And we have had probably a handful of major rentals for overnight or a long period of time. Most of them have been repasses that we either gave it at a discount or it was somebody inside the city that we kind of let use. So the stats are not high now, but they are increasing. Over the last two months, we have an increase of probably about 25% of rentals for the Price One Center and also Booker Park. St. John's River Center, normally that just used to be rented out for meetings. We have a few little events we have down there. I think we had a wedding that they want to utilize upstairs on the roof, but most of those are usually done for meetings. And the proposals are just pretty much really, other than Price One Center, the proposals are really just adding a cleaning fee to everything. The Price
Are you
One
talking
Center,
about a $50 flat fee or $50 per hour?
$50, that's $25 for the cleaning fee, so it's 2 hours, a minimum of 2 hours.
On your price, I think you probably need a correction on that one, on the rent piece of it, the $75 an hour or $600 per hour.
Per day.
You're probably gonna change it to the per day on there.
Well, they, yes, per day. And the
So
daily.
it's just a correction.
Yes,
on that.
yeah, correct. The daily fee is 8 hours. I mean, it's anything over 8 hours, that's what you pay. So you can actually rent it from 11 in the morning to, 8 in the morning to 11 at night.
Right. And you say you're dropping that,
To 450 from 600. And we're picking up $50 more. We're losing $150, but we're picking it back 50 up on the cleaning fee.
Do you really want to go to doing the hourly rental on that facility as opposed to doing the daily rental and having to take on the burden of calculating?
Well, most of the facility rentals we have had has always been daily. I don't think, we had maybe 1 or 2 that actually did an hourly thing, but most of them have been daily rentals.
I'd like to make a recommendation that you at least do a minimum, I wouldn't say just, if they want to just do 1 hour, then somebody else may, I don't know how you can stack, you know, it could be lost opportunity. I would just say consider, I won't tell you what to do, but just maybe consider saying at least maybe 2 hours or, maybe 4 hours,
4 hours.
instead of just 1 hour.
Because you're
Well,
going
your
to
new,
add those 2 hours on the end.
well, your new proposed fee schedule has come back to the commission for approval anyway.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
there'll be plenty of time to discuss
Right.
the pros and cons.
And next slide. Next slide is just a carry on to that situation we were talking about. And that's the Brunson-Mulholland House fee, $500 deposit, $100 rental per hour, and $800 for the day. And we're trying to increase the price because the Brunson-Mulholland House has a lot of delicate security down there, so we want to have a higher security deposit to cover some materials or anything they might have. But most of the stuff will be put on kind of like rollers, so it can be rolled in and out easier.
I know one of the other things we talked about is in the past with the Brunson Mulholland houses, we talked about rentals and things of that nature, was partnering with wedding planners or other organizations to do marketing and maybe even some, or even giving them some type of commission for bringing rentals forward and putting out literature, because we've had a few weddings there. And at one point, we even discussed changing the way that the landscape was set up so that it'd be more conducive to be able to get the outdoor events in. And so those are, I think at some point, if we market that facility properly, it's one of those facilities that should stay full for weddings on a regular basis. If we just, and part of it's just going to be a matter of setting up our landscape schedules and all the other stuff, and also looking at what's most conducive through a landscape architect to figure out what we need to do to make it happen.
Okay. And last on the additional prices and rentals, additional fee, we've had a lot of issues with, like I said, late people coming in, they're not leaving out on time. They
Let the record reflect Commissioner Campbell is no longer virtual.
Internet.
You need me to catch you up on anything, sir?
I heard everything, but I do have a concern with the $50 rental. I mean, the $50 cleanup fee.
Okay.
Personally, I think it should be taken up. A lot of times those facilities are, as you stated, are not necessarily left in the conditions or the best conditions, and $50 does not begin to tap what it would cost for it to be clean. So that's just something that would take in consideration to bring up.
Okay, and actually, that was just a standard across the board, but we do have, we have a penalty fee down here. So if you're late getting out when you're supposed to leave at 11 o'clock and it's 11:05, 11:15, we charge you another extra. And if you have excess dirty or excess cleaning that we need to do, we charge you some more money for that. And we want to create a situation where people take care of this property and put it back like when they got it. And also be mindful of students, of everybody else's time that's here, because staff has to open and close this most of the time. And going forward, we're probably going to do that on a regular basis, because I don't want to give out a bunch of keys. But
we'll try to put something in front of you. One problem I have is trying to collect after the fact. I mean, it's fine to collect a cleaning fee that's greater because of the mess that's been left, but getting paid after they've already used it may not always be an easy proposition.
Well, that's where the deposit
would have to take care of that.
Yeah. And also, I think locally, probably the most efficient entity when it comes to rental of event space is the Ravine Gardens.
Mm-hmm.
They hold you to the time that you allocate from setup to finish, and you don't get a minute over. And so, everybody can learn a lot from the way they do rentals. I mean, I definitely learn a lot in renting the Ravines, just about how efficient you have to be at even estimating your time.
Okay. Any other questions on the cultural side before we move on to the recreation and code enforcement?
Great job, sir.
You can keep moving. Thank you, sir.
I want to take the same time everybody else took.
You're actually over the time everybody else took, but you can keep going.
Recreation. Right now, we currently, recreation, Joy Pound is my coordinator in recreation. Right now, we currently have 3 field rentals for AAU travel softball teams are in the field. Mostly going through Tuesday through Friday night on Fred Green, Shawbuck, and Forrester. So the fields are getting used regular basis. Programs, we had a mini camp during spring break. We partnered with First Tee. We had about 15 kids out there. Commissioner Campbell came out there and he was kind of supporting and helped us a little bit, and actually played a little kickball.
I do have a question on that though. What is an overly successful program?
Well,
It's rhetorical. Don't do it.
No, I know I'm talking to the lawyers, but I'm on. It was a trial program, and we really, as the day of two days before the event, we didn't have no kids signed up. So the day we had,
Let me talk to it. Overly successful. I think the program itself was overly successful. However, the attendance was not successful. I think they had everything in place that would have been beneficial to those that would have attended. However, as far as with attendance, now that was poor. But of course, what overly successful was for me having everything that would have been needed, or even for the kids that were there, making sure that they had everything they needed, the programming, the teaching, the direction of, whatever sport they were playing, the golfing, all of that stuff. That's what I would say is overly successful. But as far as attendance,
Commissioner, I wasn't being critical. I was.
no. I wanted to
Yeah.
say from the outside coming in of what it is, because again, I think with that, if we would have had maximum participation or a little better participation, I think it would have been over the roof. So, but everything that was planned for that time was, I would consider over.
Just for the record, he wasn't looking for an answer.
But I gave one. But I wanted to give it because again, that's something I want to give them kudos for anyway.
So, and going forth, like COVID took a hit. Before COVID came, we was averaging about 45 to 50 some kids in our programs. So when we shut down, trying to bring them back now, some are just probably still scared to come out here and do organized program sports. Some are moved on to other places, and some are just waiting to see if we're really going to continue to do this. So we're looking at building that. Our mainstream is promoting it as Facebooks, Instagram, the radio station, and the newspaper. I used to do the flyers in the schools, but we was killing too many trees. I was printing probably 4,500 flyers, taking them to school and putting them in stacks of 20. Just do the math for that. That was getting very tiresome for each program. So we're looking at partnership with a couple of players. Powell, the Police Athletic League, me and Captain Williams sat down on Monday and started working on some things to put the programs together where the kids are kind of funneled to both. And that spearheaded into the summer camp that we're going to run the last weekend in June to the end of July. They're going to run the STEM program type camp, and we're going to do the sports side of it. And they're going to funnel the kids to Fred Green or Shawbuck, depending on what site they use for their camp. So that hopefully that should bring more numbers to the kids. And also we're going to start promoting it harder now that we have things opened up that we can have more kids. This spring camp that we did, we only wanted 20 because we needed to stay in ratio, and it was just going to be me and Joey out there. So we couldn't have no more than that anyway. So that's why we said it was kind of an overly successful camp. But moving forward for that,
There'd be an answer.
moving forward from that is some of the future things that we want to do. I have spoke to a couple of the commissioners. Not do that, Bill. I spoke to a couple of commissioners. Commissioner Campbell, we're gonna start trying to do a movie night at either Fred Green or Shawbuck, just to bring the community and have them meet the commissioner and talk and ask questions if they want to. Commissioner Jones and I had a conversation about trying to bring some things back to Booker Park. So we're gonna try a 3-on-3 little basketball tournament just where the kids get out and play. And I've said that the winning team that's in our older age group can play against us, me, Mayor, Commissioner Jones.
It's over from, it's over. Jones was the basketball star.
I heard Ed Chandler was a good basketball
Bora.
player, so we'll bring him in there. But for the recreation department, we're gonna do flag football starting in June. We're gonna do also soccer following that. And for the adult sports, we're doing kickball again for the adults. And also we're gonna do a wooden bat co-ed league. And we're gonna do that triangle.
Well, you got 3 college basketball players in the room that just volunteered, so you can keep going.
Well,
Mr. Cutright,
yes.
do you have anything for like seniors activities?
We're looking at trying to do the pickleball. We actually got a Eagle Scout gentleman that's supposed to be doing the tennis court over across from Willie Cooper building and turning that into a pickleball court for us. So once he finished that, then I do pickleball in the city. But I have tried to coordinate with Ms. Salmons and that the pickleball coordinator in the county over that triangle.
Commissioner Board looking for activities in the senior
Well, I'm
years.
trying to look for some for Mayor Hill, some shuffleboard.
I do remember former vice mayor, she was wanting to do some stuff with like art, crafts, senior citizens. So let's definitely try to make sure that we tap into that and take that
We'll
into
do that
consideration.
because she wanted to do a neighborhood like art program by the church. Yeah, so we do that. Facility repairs. Now this is where money, Lauren. The annex building across the street. I sent a proposal to Jonathan and Mr. Holmes. Its roof is leaking, and it's leaking even worse now. It was leaking when I first came here. We did a little patch job, and it was, bananas leaking in the back where y'all keep y'all files and your historical stuff. The guy said he can do it for $1,200, but he said that's a past job and he can't guarantee the fix. He said the price that we got was $48,000 to $73,000.
Say that again. Say it again.
The past job, and he totally recommended that was not going to work, but he'd do it. He'd give it a try to put some patches in the bearings. But he said that actually the price for the roof, looking at repairing it and holding a warranty on it would be about $48,000 to $73,000.
Sounds like the PD. I'll say it for you, Chief.
But that's just
Deferred maintenance creates new.
We have a 2008 Dodge Ram truck Joy used to take the field equipment to the fields and do work on the fields. We have it's truck number 79, and I can't even give you the year, but it's probably older than all of us. It's Lorenzo old truck. It actually needs a lot of repairs, but we let Winston use it to kind of like go back and forth to drop off supplies for us, toiletry supplies. We are making do, but come down the line in the next couple of years, these vehicles don't need to be looked at. The code enforcement is a 2014, so it's actually running okay. We're gonna do another service maintenance on it. I got service plans on 2, that's 79. I don't have a service plan on that.
Yeah, there's a very nice 2005 Dodge that's coming due in a little bit.
Okay, wait. It's always upgrade. But that's in the recreation department. If anybody got any questions, I will move on to code enforcement.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, for code enforcement. All right. We're averaging about 10 complaints a week. Out of those 10 complaints, we're averaging probably about 6 of them actually are confirmed complaints. Most of them are just neighbors being mad at each other. We're doing our inspections, and we are running 3 to 8 cases in front of the magistrate per month. We have closed about 35 cases that's in the cold case file from just re-inspecting them and finding that they was in compliance. We're still doing at least 2 or 3 a week on downtime. We're doing cold cases on downtime. So we're not looking into cold cases until David's schedule has kind of slowed down, so I don't want to take his time away from the active cases that we're looking at that being complaint now. Currently have David working on the weekends, 2 weekends out of the month to kind of hit food trucks and things like that don't have permits and everything. Chief Taylor kind of gives me some of the places to look at, and we kind of run out there and see what's going on. But doing that we had to flex his time during the week, and that takes away from his time to work other stuff during the week. We do, like I said, we have had this conversation about ADG. ADG has 5,000 cases in it, and we're trying to close them slowly at a time. But as we close them, we getting closer to our goal of moving everything over to iWorks. iWorks is our program that we use. Going probably June the 1st, May was my goal, but the guy that I think is Brady of iWorks, he said it takes about 45 days for to get this program up and running. You'll be able to log on from your phone or from a website and check your status of your case. So hopefully that'll eliminate some of the strange phone calls that we get about what my case at. I don't think it'll eliminate the complaining phone calls, because we have people just love to call and complain on somebody, but it will eliminate people questioning their case as much. That program right there, the iWorks itself is $3,000. This other program that we're adding to that will be an additional $2,500. So we're looking at $5,500 a year for iWorks website.
Does it give them anonymity too? Any anonymity?
What you mean? You get to see
No anonymous calls here.
Yeah.
We don't accept anonymous calls.
No, you have to have a name to a complaint. We don't do anonymous complaints. You got to be able to put your name to the bill complaint.
Is there not a way that it can be coded in a way to where if the person give their information, that it can be like disguised as given a number or something like that, though, where
Public
it's
record.
not.
It's a public record.
Okay. So
Is that statute?
Mr. Law.
Yeah, is that statute, is this law?
Yes, there's no exemption for a code complaint under the Florida Public Records Law, so it would be statutory.
You have to? Okay, because I mean, and that's a number of reasons why most people don't call in complaints, and they'll reach out to the commission or whoever because of the fear of retaliation or whatever it may be. So
But if you accept anonymous complaints,
You're gonna accept all of them.
you're
You're
not gonna be,
You're gonna double your calls.
no, you're gonna quadruple them.
The anonymous complaints, the issue with that, and I understand, and we discussed this in thorough detail about whether we should or shouldn't. You're gonna have the neighbors fighting each other and the bickerment of people just calling in just to be pissed. Because we still get that now.
Right.
And you're gonna get even more when it's anonymous.
Well, here's a question. What about self-initiated? You drive down River Street, you see something.
Well,
how often do you act on those? And is that considered, it is considered self-initiation, wouldn't it be?
Yes.
Well, can I answer that? Commissioner, the problem we have is if we stick to a complaint-driven system, we have an easy answer as to why we picked on you. If we go to a self-initiated system, then the question you're going to have to answer is, why did you pick on me? And I've seen it tried the other way. And, you can, whatever system you want implemented, we'll implement. But the problem then becomes when he goes to 100 Main Street, then that person says, why'd you pick on me? And why didn't you go to 102? And you will end up spending a significant amount of time defending yourself against the accusation that you selectively enforced the code. Whereas if it's complaint driven, we simply say because somebody complained. And I'll mention also to you that the magistrate uses that in his spiel in the hearings, because you'll have people come in, and you heard it the last time we had a hearing. He says, the city is not just out looking to cause you a problem. They are complaint driven, and obviously somebody complained about your house, and he has used that in the hearings.
But they can move forward with life safety.
Yes,
concerns.
And what we're looking at doing,
No, like something for safety, you already answered the question, that you see is impeding traffic or is at that point, it's
and we have initiated a few of those that we've seen that were
yeah.
safety issues. And as we get David spunked up more and get him certified in some face classes, so we can start initiating more cases, we will look at that. But right now, one-man code enforcement officer is kind of hard to.
What's the timeline on number 2?
On getting
I'll get a second.
Okay. That's a good question.
We don't have a budget for it right now. What we had hoped to do is,
That's my recommendation, y'all.
Commissioner and Mayor, Mr. Cutright, all the staff that you've heard from, in my opinion, are doing a great job. Mr. Cutright took this on. I won't say he volunteered for it, but he kind of did. And he's
He overly volunteered.
well, he said volunteered or voluntold. I don't know which one.
Voluntold, that's what it was.
In any event, he has done a great job in getting a process moving forward. As he said, we haven't even been able to get a certified code enforcement officer because the schools have been shut down because of COVID. They've done on-the-job training at other jurisdictions to put a process in place, and I think they're doing a great job, having attended the hearings with the magistrate. So our thought was that once the department was functioning and moving and we were clearing cases, which we are now, we started our hearings in February, so we've had February and March. Then once we felt like we had a process in place and things were moving, and we kind of figured out where the kinks were, like the iWork system, right now, I think he'll tell you that they spend a significant amount of time answering the phone and telling people where their case is. And he's complained to me about that a number of different times. So it's our process and we have some frequent flyers who call every single day, sometimes more than once a day. So it's our hope that this iWork system will free up sometime from that perspective, and we're learning as we go, and then we'll be able to handle the additional workload of a second code officer. But again, it'll have to be put in the budget.
But didn't we budget for an additional code officer for this
Not to my-
fiscal year?
Not to my knowledge.
There wasn't just a part-time person?
Yeah,
It was, we budgeted for another position in codes. If it wasn't full-time, it was a part-time.
It was the
position.
administrative that we budgeted for.
administrator.
And that's what Miss,
Who?
you ended up taking part, you got a full-time person, but that full-time person, which is Miss Hughes, is consisting of one half code admin that you budgeted for and one half community affairs admin that you budgeted for, and you made one person out of that. So what you budgeted for was 1.5, one code officer and one half admin, and that one half admin is being joined with the cultural affairs to make Miss Hughes the one full-time, and that's what we've got budgeted right now.
We may need to look at a budget amendment for one of these other positions that's empty right now.
Kind of threw me off a little bit on where I'm at, but yeah.
You're at the bottom of your page.
Yeah. But yeah, actually, the recommendation that y'all just brought up was what I was asking, we would recommend, another code officer. But to be honest with you, right now, if we had to see what I needed more than anything, we actually need a part-time administrative staff, because code enforcement, and Matt Newcomb probably can help me tell me better, sir, than this. It's a demanding game. People call every day to complain about something. We have several frequent flyers. We have a few people call and have 16 cases they want to complain about. And just think about it, it takes time to take every case, name, information, and complaint issue. And then we have to put that in our works. Then we have to still doing lien searches and everything that comes with that. So it's overwhelming when it comes to, and again, we're trying to learn all this as we go to.
So on the follow-up to those cases, for instance, if a complainant want to know what the status is, the system does allow for them to be able to search their own.
Yeah, that's what the iWork system we're trying to go to here
Correct.
shortly, to be able to pull up, plug and play a case number, and you can see where it's at.
Right.
And it'll be our requirement for staffing to make sure we data everything in the system so they can see what's going on.
Right. And so how far we're out on that?
Well, we're looking at about 45 days. Brady said with iWorks, he said to get everything up and running about 45 days, but we will do a test with the commissioners and some of the local staff, here to make sure it works friendly before we put it out there.
Appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Any other questions, comments? Thanks, sir.
Thanks, Jay.
Thank you. I'm sorry to have pictures.
Thank you for, time's up. Any? Mr. Holmes? We got anything from legal or clerk? You got anything for us, or?
Other than, we tried to hit the high points on the reports, and then, of course, we'll respond to any questions that you have.
I'll make a suggestion that we talked a little bit about it not long ago with the clerk's office, something we've been talking about for a while, as it's record keeping and record storage. The way that we're doing things, getting to a point where we start to digitize a lot of the stuff that we have in place. The older documents, also contacting someone like University of Florida with some of those historic documents that we have, and the threat that we have right now with the roof really creates, I think, even more of an expedient circumstance to try to deal with some of those issues. But we need to look at a plan to get our records keeping in compliance with what's in place and up to today's standards, as well as digitizing some of those documents from the 1800s. And so,
Apologize, Mr. Mayor.
no, you're fine. We just need to, I think we need to look at a way within the next 12 months or 18 months or whatever it may be that we start to prioritize record keeping. And we talked about it in having places put in as we build new facilities. But with the threat that we have in the annex building with roofing and things of that nature, we may need to look at a temporary storage site that deals with our records. That we got some records that go back to the Civil War. And I think at the end of the day, we need to make sure that we put ourselves in a position where those documents protected. It may be worth a conversation with University of Florida, St. John's, or someone as we talk about preserving historic records. And a lot of those things, I'm sure they would be eager to hold them in safekeeping for the city with, or even the Smithsonian. At this point, Commissioner, you got anything else? Commissioner Jones?
Well, prioritizing the project and goals.
Your mic's off.
Commissioner Jones, just to keep you updated and to explain the interruption, there was a shooting outside of Wendy's. The police department already has a shooter in custody. It's my understanding that there were no injuries. So just, that was the interruption, and that's why I was speaking of chief.
Okay.
I guess we go, you want to go on?
We're going to commission comments at this time. And I'll start out with you, Commissioner Jones. Since it was your workshop.
Okay. Well, great. I just wanted to go ahead and recap the purpose of the request for this workshop. And it was a meeting to provide open and effective communication to the entire team. I mean, all of us that are here today. And we're also sharing it with the public, being transparent of where we're headed as far as the direction. We have some new commissioners. We have new people in new positions, assignments, new hires that I think this would be beneficial for everyone. I know I got a lot out of this. And I think we hit every mark that it was intended to do. At this time, I would like to just provide simply the goals that each one of our commissioners have going forward. You may not have a goal. We may just want to just continue to do as already planned, maybe the 4-year plan that you had prior to me getting on this board, but I would like to hear it. If you don't have one, that's fine. Because a lot of times we work pretty much as things come about and we take care of them. I could go first of what I want to see, but I really would like to go last. Because again, I'm here and I'll tell you this, I'll say it. I ran on, I would be the voice of my community. I didn't run on, I was going to do anything specific when I got in this seat. I wanted to join this team to help this commission to move forward. But I'm not shy at saying what I would like to see. And so I guess I will go forth. I'll take the lead. I go first and take the lead.
So he's going first and last now.
Well, I wouldn't. I said I prefer to go last, but I will go first because I'm a leader like that. And here it is. And when I ask about the wish list that I would like to see every department head put a wish list together, and you pretty much did that. Me personally, as a commissioner, one of the things that I saw as a need, and I talked to people as I was campaigning, they were talking about the blight that we have in our city. And that's one of the goals that I put forth once I got in the seat, that I want to attack that. One of the vehicles that we're going to use to do that, I want to work closely with is Mr. Cutright as far as code enforcement, okay? And they are doing a good job with what they have. My question would be to Mr. Cutright, which he answered, what do you need to be efficient and effective in doing your job? And we heard it here today, they need help. They need other employees. And Mayor, you already answered that question, that we're going to try to expedite that and get some more help to him. So I didn't want to come here with problems and not a solution. And I think that as we heard the issues or the challenges, we have probably brainstormed as we talked and probably internalized what we actually need and what we need to see each department get, whether it's funding, whether it's personnel, or what have you. And so that was the main purpose. And again, what I wanted to see, one of my goals was to fight the blight, code enforcement, and the third thing was to reduce violent crime in our community. Chief Shaw showed us some statistics, and again, as far as solutions to fight violent crime, I think that is partnering with the community. And partnering with the community is things like community-oriented policing, getting LEO, and you had some of these programs up already. Getting LEO out in the neighborhoods, mingling with citizens, doing crime watch programs and things of that nature. I would like to see those things. You already had a list, Chief Shaw, of some of the, really the questions that I had. I don't have any question for you because you already had the answers. So I appreciate that in your presentation. And thirdly, one of my wish list things that I want to see, and this is lastly rather, my wish list thing that I want to see, and I want to accomplish for being on this board is there's a school that is going to be vacant at the end of this year, and that's Robert H. Jenkins Middle School here in Palatka. Some years ago, the city of Palatka owned the gymnasium there, and I would like to see the city of Palatka actually get that building and retain it for a community hub. We can do a lot of things out of that as it relates to PAL programs, community affairs, as well as recreation. So that used to be a hub for young folk to go to back in the late 80s, early 90s. And I would like to see us obtain that and have that as one of our facilities here. And the last thing I would like to see to go along with recreation is at our city dock, I would like to see splash pad, something simple. I would like to see us have a splash pad down there for children. I know it may seem as simple as could be, but we do have kids. The county have one of those, but we have a park down at the riverfront that don't have something like that that's attractive for kids. And I think that we could find the funding to do that at the riverfront as well as Lefty Booker Turner Park. Lefty Turner Park. So those are my wish list of things that I would like to see.
Just to add on Jenkins, as far as PAL, I think the mayor can add a little bit more, but we've been in communications with the school board as far as to being able to utilize the facility. We are right now holding on the mayor and the school board director in reference to usage and going back on where they're going to go. Last time I talked, they were looking at, Mr. Bolden was going to be getting with the mayor in reference to finalizing and coming up with an agreement.
So goal almost accomplished. Thank you.
Yeah, he actually we're waiting for some additional conversation from some additional direction from the school district, and they're trying to compile some stuff now so that we can actually bring it back before the commission to see if there's that opportunity exists.
And if I can speak to that, I was a part of the facilities workshop group, which I was glad to be a part of, because not only does that gymnasium have, is near and dear to my heart, the media center was named after my aunt who worked there for over 30 years. So me having opportunity to have a seat at the table, I was able to have that conversation with the leadership team about partnering with the city of Palatka to make sure that we can see about maintaining that gymnasium and maintaining the wing that houses the media center that's named after my aunt.
And in talks for that is where, as Commissioner Campbell is familiar, is where we are wanting to host our summer program for this year.
Right.
So those are things that we are looking at, and you'll begin seeing the advertisement go out here. And when the very first place we held our summer camp was at Jenkins Middle School. So we are wanting to return to Jenkins Middle School and begin to continue on, especially for that history and moving forward.
Right.
I think they've already created a committee and had that meeting.
They had that one off the school. That was for the elementary school, but it's something that I think the city can look at definitely and make sure that we preserve the history of Robert H. Jenkins and Central Academy High School.
You can actually reach out to see about getting on that committee because they're creating that one, so we can see about keeping the name.
Right.
So we got that taken care of. So if Jonathan and Mandy could just look for resources to get those splash pads, I'm halfway at my goals. So I pass it on to the next commission. Thank you.
Can you also go ahead and give for the commissioner the water bill that the county pays? 78,000.
And then the liability that water.
Splash pad.
The water bill they asked us to donate.
Putting the water pad there, and autistic children gravitate towards water. So that's a huge liability.
Yes, ma'am. I understand that.
Well,
but we have an attorney.
thank you, Commissioner Jones.
Thank you for your time.
Ooh, liability. Next up, since we're going in age, Commissioner Borum.
That's all right. Wisdom come with that as well.
And loss of hair.
But anyways, in terms of what I like to see is a little bit more as it relates. So I talk about why I ran for office or whatever, and it was basically about fiscal accountability, helping to reduce crime, and also economic development. So those are my platforms. I mean, I'm actually working a lot of those areas. If you would see all my communication to city manager, department heads, or whoever it may be. So I do a lot of work in the background. I don't do a whole lot out front. But long story short, I sent my mission, vision, or whatever goes to our previous, a former finance director at the time. But I've also worked with previous city managers as it related to what I think we need as a city as it relates to a vision, a mission statement. I do see that two departments does have it. Our public works and also the police department, they do both have vision and mission statements as it relates to that. But I think as leaders on our board, I think we need to set a mission and vision for this city. I've seen it in other cities. I've seen it in different corporations, wherever it may be, but it does provide you with some form of framework. But I will I won't read it out, but I will pass this along to the city manager as I have done with former city managers in the past, what it relates to at least developing that. And it could be shared to the other commissioners and mayors. So, but we do need to operate from some form of a framework. You know, you got to have a vision, and we got people who have virtues and talents. We need to understand and know how to utilize these individual talents in order to be able to get the best from knowledge processes. We have a lot of people who leave the organization that we lose a lot of institutional knowledge. And I think the city manager had been working on things along those lines. And we go down to decision rights, different things of that nature. And then out of that whole thing it's basically like a MBM framework, 5 dimensions. And at the end of when you look at your vision, your virtue and talents, your knowledge process, your decision rights, you get incentives out of it, whether it's improved processes, whether you have hit the bottom line in terms of looking at dollar cost value saves and different things of that nature. So that's the way I look at things. That's the way I operate. So, and again, I share the same thing with Commissioner Jones with the crime stuff. I've been working a lot with the Chief Shaw and the city manager with different programs I brought back from when I went down to a conference we had, and I brought that back. It came from South Florida, and we're trying to initiate that particular program. So we're doing a lot of things as it relates to trying to deal with crime in various ways, and I've asked for a number of different reports and things of that nature. In terms of projects, status, and different things, I've worked with Jonathan Griffith on that and previous city managers as it relates to the various projects that we have, where they at, how we're coming along on them, so we can communicate those things to the community. And also keeping an idea of where we're at on finances. And I've dealt with city managers as well as finance directors on that. So all of these things kind of help keep a understanding and know how we're functioning as a city. We're just not just doing things for the sake of doing things. So that's where I'm at. And I like to also challenge each and every other department to develop a vision, but it all has to tie into the vision and the mission of this board. So it all starts here, but I commend the chief and Jonathan for the vision that they have on their site. So it kind of gives you some form of a guidance how things should work. That's all I have.
Any comments or
Well, that kind of leads into the segue. I didn't know if I was next.
you were
want my
definitely
age.
next. You were definitely next, and I'm definitely smart enough not to say anything, but I call you next.
So I'll kind of touch on that, but I'll start out, I did as well. I sent my goals and expectations to Logan, the prior finance director, and there were three. And the first one was to maintain, improve, and repair streets, sidewalks, sewer systems, buildings, parks, and trails that will better serve the community. And I think that we've been doing a great job at that. We kind of hear about grants and things that have, that we've received and improved those areas. I also had a goal and expectation to implement systems and infrastructure to better communicate with the public. And I think we've addressed that, and I think we recently addressed it with the COVID CARES funding. But the overall and the third priority includes a strategic plan. And I think that will help address a lot of our concerns, and it will allow for us to do revisions and of existing programs and policies that will better serve our current businesses and attract new ones, and to effectively and efficiently address current and future expenditure and revenue needs for the city. So that's what I ran on. I did share it with Logan, and now share it again. But I think that strategic plan is key to addressing a lot of the needs that we have, not only as a commission, but to include staff as well. Thank you.
Commissioner Campbell.
I think you're before me, Mayor. You said you're going by age.
I'm going last.
I think everyone kind of hit on what I want, but my main one was such as Commissioner McCaskill is infrastructure, making sure that we continue to seek funding or do what we can to improve that all across the city. Community engagement, I think once we have the buy-in of our community and we engage them, empower them, our city has no other choice but to continue to move forward when we have those that are a part of our community feeling as if they have a buy-in to what we are doing. I've often said that we were elected by the people. So again, having just what we want to do is not necessarily the answer, but I want to make sure that we have that engagement of the citizens, of those who entrusted us in these positions, to make sure that when we seek direction or when we make sure that we are making decisions for this city, that we keep them in mind. I would love for us to revisit the promoting of Palatka campaign. I know that was something that we previously talked about. We actually talked about making sure, or possibly bringing on someone as a position for that. But I would love to see us bring that back to the forefront. I would love for us to continue or bring back our city-county partnership that we once had, to where we met individually at least quarterly. I think that would be something that if we're all in the same area or the same room with guided conversation or guided dialogue, that we will be able to be a little bit more transparent with what we desire to see. And it's more specifically transparency to our community as a whole. When Palatka flourishes, our whole community, our whole county flourishes. So we want to make sure that we have that partnership or a better relationship with our county commissioners than we do right now. And again, overall, where there is no vision, there is no direction. So we need to make sure that we have a vision, which is that strategic plan that Commissioner McCaskill talked about. So overall, infrastructure, community engagement, promoting a Palatka campaign, city-county partnership, as well as a strategic plan would be my desires.
Any comments, questions? I guess in wrapping this up, I think the first thing is I want to commend all the department heads and staff for coming in and sharing some of the challenges that you have, as well as the successes and really some of the issues that are present within the city. I think we've all, if we look around this room, most of the department heads in here have a minimum of 15 years with the city, excluding some of our newer people. I think one of the things that's really critical as we start to move forward, and one of the things that we did initially when we came in back in 2016, 15, one of the things that we did when we came in was we had a visiting session. And that visiting session allowed us to be able to really talk about many of the things that we had on a regular basis. I think with the transition and some of the other pieces that were there, you've had visiting the strategic sessions with various city managers, and different processes have changed throughout the years. I think, but one of the critical pieces to this puzzle is to put together the strategic plan as previously mentioned, but also a pure economic development plan. And that's one of the missing pieces to this puzzle in totality, because the economic development plan is going to show us where we can start to generate additional revenues. And until, if you can't find the money, it's hard to find solutions to some of the things that exist. And so, we look at that. Commissioner Jones talked about the Northside Neighborhood Facility Center as well as other issues. Splash pad was something that was brought up. Commissioner Board talked about a mission and a vision statement, which is critical as you start talking about strategic planning. And then Commissioner McCaskill talked about the actual strategic plan. And Commissioner Campbell talked about community engagement as one of the pieces to that puzzle. We've talked considerably about being able to broadcast our successes and failures to the community on a regular basis, to be able to get citizens to buy into what's going on inside the city. I think over the years, we've made considerable effort to make sure we give the tools necessary to staff to start to do things, whether that's purchasing new equipment, new machinery, new vehicles, whatever it may be, to put us in a better position. But I think in doing that, one of the things that we all can get better at is making sure that as we increase our wish list, for lack of any other term, we also create the mechanisms to make sure that you can actually be able to maintain those without blowing your budget. And so I think that's a piece where this commission can be challenged as a whole, as well as our department heads, for us all to collaboratively come up with those plans to maintain the assets that we begin to gain over time. The other piece for me that's critical when it comes down to talking about staff and department heads and even the commission is talking about the working environment that we operate in. It's hard to have efficiencies of operation when the facilities that you work in aren't conducive to you being successful. And so the reality of it is we need a new public works facility. We need a new police department. If we continue on with K. Larkin, we're going to need a new fire department out there, a new building. The airport's the only place that has something new. We need a new city hall. We need a new annex. We need to consciously work at looking at the opportunities to be able to comprehensively put working conditions into a position where we actually are able to be efficient. If the working environment's not right, you're not going to be able to do it. We're constantly squeezing out space wherever we can carve it out, or patching what's there to do it. We've been promising Public Works a new facility for 5 years. We put the money in the budget and we still haven't gotten there because there are other things, other fires come up, or we find ourselves in other positions. But until we can go to work and we can actually give the staff that's committed to coming in here daily and doing what they have to do, understanding that in many instances, you guys are underpaid. That's just the reality of it. It's hard to bring somebody to work every day and they make less money than a high school kid in McDonald's, and they're working their butt off. So one of the things I think is critical, and it's risky, but we're at a point where, the state minimum wage is going to be $15. And at the end of the day, I don't think a high school kid should make what a man who's been working 15 years makes. That's just the reality of what's there. And we've got to put a salary survey in place so that we're competitive with communities our size. And we have to put a plan together to implement it. This community is going to grow. We're going to start to see an increase in ad valorem taxes around the way. But we also have to look at making sure that we're doing our part in maximizing efficiencies within our organizations, giving rewards to individuals who create new efficiencies, or whatever the case may be, with their ideas, and they got a vested interest in the outcome. But there has to be an open door policy. I think more than anything else, there has to be a family approach. We need more opportunities to have team building exercises. This is the first time in a long time that we've all collectively come together and everybody said, well, let's talk. It hasn't happened as frequently as it should have. And a lot of times it's because we're too busy throughout the day, and after hours isn't always the fairest approach to getting things done with you. But I truly believe that better days are ahead. In my eyes, I think we're a lot better than we were 6 years ago, but we could be a lot better today than we are. And that's just the reality. I believe that we need the additional engagement. We've been talking about a PIO for the longest, a public information officer, to get information to the citizens so that we no longer have to worry about, so that we can build teams of people who can help us do all of our jobs better. Because at the end of the day, we all rely on the public to be a partner. And so those are things that we have to look at overall. I think the last part of it from a staffing perspective is, as we all go through certain things, and I know some folks don't necessarily get an opportunity to come up and do PowerPoints regularly, a leadership academy is a great thing that we can look at inside of this city, because it allows us to be able to look at shining stars who may not necessarily have risen at this point, but we've got folks who are going to be the successors to the folks in this room. Kayla's probably the only person who's going to be here for another 30 years. But outside of, and she's the prime example of what's there when you can identify a young leader who can come in and step in and take over an organization. You know, years ago, Ed Chandler, it was you. And so, you know, Chief Shaw, you know, Red, and we've seen that along the way. Now we're seeing, you know, Justin Jermaine, Sean Ladd's been the same type situation coming in, but we're still finding ourselves with some places where we still have one person departments. And until we create succession plans, which will allow us to train your replacements, we're going to continually struggle when we get to situations where we've got transition and people ascending to different levels or different organizations. And so I think that as we start to put this stuff together, those are some of the things that I see from a staffing standpoint, and even from a commission standpoint, that are going to be critical, because we all have an obligation as well to try to find our successors so that, you know, the visions continually can flourish. No different than the city manager or even the city attorney. Those are all places where we can actually start to build continuity within the city as we move forward. And that's one of the things that begins to stymie us as we make progress. Whenever there's transition, we find a halt until we find the replacement. You know, and so we've got to be able to build from that. As far as the visions of the city of Palatka as a whole, one of the most critical pieces I see is the revitalization of the 11th Street Business District, for example, and infill within our residential areas. The city has an opportunity, if we use CDBG funding, if we use other funding sources that are out there, to take renters and make them homeowners, to take employees. You think about the number of people who work up under you who don't own homes and have worked for the city for many years and really don't, and most of it's simply because they're afraid of what it takes for home ownership, or they don't know. We've had historically live where you work programs, things of that nature. If we start in-house with our city of Palatka employees, we should be able to put ourselves in a position as we get salaries and other things to where they need to be, to start to build homeowners within our community. People who've already committed to the community, but have an opportunity to be able to be in a greater financial situation based on the fact that they're homeowners. We got a lot of guys, and I've seen it over the years when we first came in, who worked for the city for 30 years and they rented apartments the entire 30 years they've been there. And some choose not to be homeowners, but many just have never had the information disseminated to them so that they can understand that there may be greater financial benefits, because in most cases, they pay more for rent than they would pay for a mortgage. And so while we have and I think we have an obligation to provide information as it relates to investments, to benefits, to home ownership, to everybody who's a part of this team in this community. And so I think those are places where we start to look at how we can build things forward. The other piece of it is, outside of housing, outside of getting new facilities, the last part, I think more than anything else, is just making sure that we continually promote inner working of departments. And we promote the concepts that we're all on the same squad. Because what we're starting to see is that there's a wealth of information, a wealth of knowledge throughout everything that we do. And we've created additional opportunities for people to work together. Because what happens is until we actually start to know each other, it's difficult to know who you need to call on and who you can trust in times of emergency. And so most of the time, the calls come in the heat of a moment where it's work and that's what it is. But if you build relationships, then it changes everything. And I think that once we start pushing those pieces of the puzzle, things are going to completely change. You know, as we develop economically, as we begin to look at what we're doing from a tax structure standpoint, some of these other things that we have, we'll start to see other places where we can start to build young people. I talked to Sean earlier today and also Ed about the idea of, and really historically what we did with right-of-way crews and how we invested in young people and how the right-of-way crews manifested into additional jobs and additional training for people that's out there. And if we can, and again, if we can start investing in our young people and develop them early on, some of those young people that come through PAL or even that come through our programs, such as recreation, we're going to find out that we won't have to search very far once we build community relationships for people to be law enforcement officers, to be firefighters, to work in public works, to do some of these other things, because we've already developed the relationship with them. And the city of Palatka is really second nature to them. And so I think overall, we're going to have a lot of things on our wish list that are going to put us in a position where we start to grow. And that's really what this is about. And as I close, I think I want to thank Commissioner Jones for bringing everybody together, because had he not done it, I don't know if we'd be here. That's just the reality. We get so caught up sometimes in the things that we do daily that we never get a chance to come together, particularly with COVID and some of the other things that are out there. But we have to create, and what I think is quarterly opportunities, or at least biannual opportunities, to sit down and have this conversation in it as we talk about what were the goals that we set for the fiscal year, where we are at least the halfway point of the year, and what are the challenges that have occurred throughout the year, and how we make those things better. And I think if we do that in a more relaxed setting, it puts us in a position where we can build relationships at the same time that we continue to build this community. Because the concept of family in itself, we have to know each other in order for us to love each other, and in order for us to care about what the next person's doing, and so that we all have the same successes. And so we'll have times where we disagree. You'll have times where the emails get heated or the phone calls get heated. But I think at the end of the day, when everybody starts to understand how we all communicate, we'll realize that we all have the same jersey on and we play on the same team. And that's going to help us create really pushing our brand and our concept, which is we're better together. And that's what this is all about. It's all about everybody coming together collectively, understanding that our main goal is to build the city of Palatka and to raise the floor in order to raise the ceiling. And so I thank you guys for coming in here tonight and staying with us and bearing with this, our 3 hours to really get through and talk about the vision of the city and really the state of the city as a whole. And I just appreciate it.
Mr. Mayor, all I wanted to say was, I think that I would be remiss without complimenting the team that's here in front of you. There have been a number of people here who've stepped up to different positions since May of last year, and they're doing their position very well. They're exceeding expectations in a lot of cases and making the city function. So without belaboring the point, all I want to do is express my thanks to the entire team that's here, from the city attorney to the general services director, to Ms. Shank, who's just stepped in, all the way down the road. We've got people who step up every day. Mr. Chandler's driving a garbage truck as the department head out there on occasion when he needs to.
That's normal.
it may be normal, but sometimes the norm doesn't get appreciated. And so I'm simply saying that you have people who are stepping up every day. And I think we'd be remiss in talking about our goals and objectives without recognizing the greatest asset you have, in my opinion, and that is the staff that you have.
Oh, no question.
And to ditto that, city manager, I would like to tell you that you're doing a good job because of the shuffling that you have to do and to jump from one hot topic to another and put fires out all the time. I think that you're doing a fantastic job as well. And I want to let the public know that. All right.
And so if we don't have anything else at this time, it is now 8:04 and we'll stand adjourned. And again,